From the east, house of light, may wisdom dawn in us, so we may see all things in clarity. From the north, house of night, may wisdom ripen in us, so we may see all from within. From the west, house of transformation, may wisdom be transformed into right action, so we may do what must be done. From the south, house of the eternal sun, may right action reap the harvest, so we may enjoy the fruits of planetary being. From above, house of heaven, where star people and ancestors gather, may their blessings come to us now. From below, house of earth, may the heartbeat of her crystal core bless us with harmonies to end all war. From the center, galactic source, which is everywhere at once, may everything be known as the light of mutual love. Ayum hunabku eva maya e maho. Ayum hunabku evam maya e maho. Ayum hunabku evam maya e maho.
Tune in with the Galactic Spin Podcast and expand your view.
In Lakesh, and greetings to one and all around the world tuning in with us in this now moment. Welcome to the Galactic Spin Podcast. My name is Mikuak Rai, Kin 126, and I'm joined by my brother Rubén Llinás, Kin 113. And we may be having some technical opportunities, it looks like here. Rubén, can you hear me? Are you there? Shout out to everybody in the live chat. Thank you for tapping in with us. Looks like we might be having a bit of a connection issue with where Rubén is located currently. So we will nevertheless welcome everybody to this auspicious episode 52. And congratulations to all of you, all of us. We have made it to this milestone. For one full 52 episode cycle. This is our episode 52. So yeah, big up, big love, big hearts and energy out there across the planet, really, just holding this frequency together. So thank you for all those who've endeavored to join us in this exploration of synchronization. Yeah, shout out to Rubén and the connection there. Rubén, I'm not sure if you hear me. Are you up? There you go. I see you now. We got a sign of life. Can you hear me there? Oops, we just lost Rubén again. All right. Well, what we're going to do right now is I'm going to actually present the tones that are recorded by Delia Sky, Kin 5, based in St. Petersburg, Florida. And she, for several years, many years, I mean, really, I think it's been definitely over 10 at this point, she's been recording and delivering the synchrotron tones of the day, the Arctara tones. In fact, she was identified as having that energy of Arctara, and maybe she can write about it in the chat a little bit to give us some background. But we invite people to tap in with her website at arctarablog.net or .com. It's one or the other, arctarablog.net or .com. We'll confirm that and make sure we put it in the chat. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pull up an audio file so we can just tap in with the frequency. And for a little bit of background on these tones, they are derived from the synchrotron 441 matrix, which is a mathematical matrix resulting from 21 times 21. And it is essentially a communication, according to this cosmology, a communication from the star system Sirius. And these codes are helping us get attuned effectively from a galactic sense to what is necessary as we make this transition right now from what has been termed by Arguelles as the biosphere-noosphere transition, but certainly it's known by other terms as well around the world. So thank you all. Let me pull up something beautiful that we can experience while we tap in with these tones a little bit too. One moment. So we want to thank Delia for these phenomenal tones. And thank you as well out there tuning in as we navigate some technical opportunities. Indeed. Give thanks, Efren. Happy 52 for sure. And a special shout out to people all around the world really anchoring an awareness of this golden intersection of timelines, that we can do this together, build this field in unity. That's really what this opportunity invites us to. So we're grateful for the chance to hold the space like this, as we've been fortunate to do for this long, and to also meet others out here around the world holding the frequency together with us. So tonight's episode, in fact, we have a great honor for our special guest. We put a shout out during last episode, if anyone could give us a direct connection with Dan Winter, and our beloved kin 177 from Australia, Vicky Cunningham, was so kind as to make the connection directly to Dan and Valerie on our behalf, and they're based in France. So we're very blessed to have a great interview with Dan Winter, and just given the technical aspects of what we're navigating right now, it may be that I'm going to play the interview with Dan so that we keep the flow of things, because normally it's Rubén and I. So in the pre-production, everything is basically set for the two of us and the frames. So what I'll do is we'll navigate that as it comes. But in the meantime, I'm going to do one thing first. Take it a little bit out of order because we're kind of playing it by ear at the moment. But I'm going to play a video that just cues up the frequency for the golden intersection of timelines. It's a beautiful video that Rubén and Alejandra produced, and it's been promoting out there on social media as we use it as a way to help raise awareness about the golden intersection of timelines. And we also encourage folks to find the video on our YouTube channel. It's in English. There's a version in Spanish as well, but it really provides clarity on what this event really is all about. And so I want to play that 5-day golden intersection of timelines video for you right now, and we'll see what's happening in the background as well. But thank you all again for tuning in and staying tuned. Glad to have you here.
What if the past, the present, and the future could meet right here, right now? October 14th and 15th, 2025 are not ordinary days. They represent a threshold of harmony, a moment of perfect synchronicity woven into the invisible fabric of time, an opportunity to recognize more deeply who we are and how we can attune to the pulse of the universe. In an unprecedented phenomenon, 3 distinct calendars, the Maya long count, the sacred Tzolk'in, and the Gregorian calendar, align, orchestrated by the golden proportion. This is a unique convergence of time cycles that will not happen again, masterfully synchronized by the mathematical code of creation. But what does this alignment truly mean? To understand it, we must delve into the science behind the golden ratio. Nature reveals a divine pattern in every expression of creation, from the spiral shape of galaxies to planetary orbits, from the arrangement of leaves and flowers to the proportions of the human body and the structure of our DNA. This pattern is the golden proportion and is mathematically expressed as the number 1.618033. For centuries, mathematicians, artists, and sages have recognized it and incorporated it in the creation of temples, pyramids, and works of art, seeking to reflect the inherent harmony that exists in the cosmos. Now, when we speak of the golden intersection of timelines, we are referring to a unique event in which the cycles of time converge, orchestrated by this same pattern of universal harmony, reminding us that time is art. How is this so? The harmonic convergence of time. On October 14th to 15th, 2025, exactly 443 years, equivalent of 161,803 days, will have passed since the start of the Gregorian calendar in 1582, a fractal manifestation of the golden number. In the Maya long count, this date is recorded as 13.0.13.0.0 Ahau, a cosmic marker announcing the completion of 2 great cycles, 13 baktuns of 144,000 days and 13 tons of 360 days since the beginning of the Mayan calendar in 3114 BCE. This double alignment is unique, as the number 13 holds the cyclical foundation of the advanced Maya science of time and holds the 7th position of the Fibonacci spiral, governed by the golden ratio. In the Tzolk'in, the sacred 260-day count, the day 4 Ahau, or 4 Sun, marks the very same day that marked the start and the end of the great cycle of 13 baktuns, symbolically guiding us back to the origin of time. Positioned within the golden section of this sacred cycle, 4 Ahau invites us to attune in perfect harmony with the sun, our source of light and life. But the resonance of this day doesn't end there. It projects far into the future, synchronizing with the start of the 21st Baktun on October 14th, 4772. Thus, the great cycles of Maya time connect on a vast golden spiral, upon which our ancient future past blends into the eternal present moment with impeccable precision. Time is speaking to us. All of this occurs in the language of time and number, but also in the language of the soul. These events are not mere coincidences. They are expressions of a cosmic harmony, showing us that time also follows the laws of a higher order. Within the Mayan worldview, time cycles are not just numbers. They are harmonic chords of a cosmic symphony, orchestrated by the divine pattern that weaves all life into the infinite spiral dance of creation. Now, this same pattern synchronizes calendars and cultures, reminding us that ancestral knowledge resonates with the universal principles of harmony. By recognizing the value of both science and tradition, we are invited to learn from our ancestors and celebrate the wonder of existing in a universe governed by elegant design principles. A galactic pulse that beats once again. Astronomically, this event may mark the most significant moment of synchronization since the galactic alignment of December 21st, 2012, when the solstice sun aligned with the heart of the Milky Way, closing the great Maya cycle of 13 Baktuns. Now the golden intersection of timelines opens a portal, a resonance spiral that continues the great story of time. It is a golden opportunity to remember that we are part of a vast universal melody, and that every heartbeat, every number, every day is speaking to us. An opportunity to remember, recognize, and be reborn. This convergence of time cycles comes at a pivotal moment, exactly 533 years after the so-called meeting of cultures of 1492. But what if, instead of reopening old wounds, we choose to re-signify the past through a higher awareness in the present? This event is a reminder that, despite our cultural and temporal differences, we are all connected by the same universal laws. It is a call to honor ancestral wisdom, to build bridges between science and spirituality, between art and culture, between tradition and transformation, between the memory of the past and the vision of the future. It is a once-in-a-lifetime window to pause and ask ourselves, how do we wish to live the time that has been gifted to us on Earth? Time is art. October 14th and 15th, 2025, offer a magnificent opportunity to celebrate together the beauty of the universe we inhabit, and that inhabits us. It is a unique moment to gather in community, to light sacred fires, to meditate, to dance, to sing, or simply to contemplate life through the innocent eyes of a child, and to remember that we are not separate from the earth or the sky. In a time when humanity faces global challenges that require unity and long-term vision, synchronizing in a shared pulse of time can strengthen our sense of planetary community. The golden intersection of 2025 reminds us that mathematics, art, astronomy, and culture can intertwine into a message of harmony and hope. This moment is no coincidence. It is pure synchronicity. And in this divine moment, we may recognize ourselves once again and blossom together as a new humanity. See you at the golden intersection of October 14th to 15th, 2025, where the past, the present, and the future converge in perfect harmony. May peace, harmony, and beauty prevail on Earth.
Beautifully, beautifully done. Beautiful video. Glad we had that waiting in the wings to bring that on. Perfect timing. And our dear brother Rubén Llinás is now unfrozen and here with us and able to communicate and everything. Felt like you had a Han Solo moment there, like you were just,
Yes.
stuck. we got you back. We got you back. All right, great.
Yes, we have been having a lot of rain, and
What
it
that
seems
means.
like the internet signal has been coming on and off. But now I came to another part of the building, the common area.
Okay.
So despite the mosquitoes, we will do our best
Ay. Oh, goodness.
to make this episode 52 like a memorable one.
It is already memorable, indeed.
Yes.
Well, thank you, brother. Congratulations for this adages to you and to the team. We've made it to 52, and that
Yes.
is a milestone for sure. And
Yes.
it's a whole new world. I mean, in many ways, from the world that we inhabited 52 episodes ago. It's things have certainly turned up, we could say,
Yes.
in many, many ways. And so big up to all of those who've been tapping in and tuning in and spiraling up together with us as we make this conscious and really create sacred space for us to step into our artful purpose. Whatever that relates to anybody tuning in, it's really time is art and you have an artful purpose. And I want people to feel inspired to step into that artful purpose if you haven't done that yet. And if you're doing that, then awesome. Keep doing that. More of that. We need more of that frequency in the field. And
Mm.
we're going to get into that conversation with our guest, Dan Winter, in this episode as well. As I was mentioning before, we put a special shout out to the community before, and by the grace, we made the connection. And his
Yes.
message, I feel, is very appropriate to sum up in many ways the way that we started this entire journey, with the
Mhm.
intention of breaking free from the zero-sum game.
Yeah.
Now, we see the zero-sum game has hit a whole other level
Yeah.
since we embarked upon this intention.
Mm.
And so also along with this, though, we came into right relation with our dear brother King Etznab. And we began to actually realize and come to experience that before 2012, a shift toward the cooperatives approach as a way forward for our human family had already begun to be established and receive international recognition. And this was in advance of 2012, which is very important because timing is everything, for one. And here
Yeah.
we are now, completing nearly 13 years since December 21st, 2012. So it's another completion cycle this year, 2025. It's very, very significant. So that 13-year stretch means a lot. And
Yes.
so we're just grateful that folks are here tuning in. We claim the harmonic factor relates to the number 13. And you'll learn more about that if you track our work. We invite you to visit theharmonicfactor.com. We certainly invite you to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also follow us on our Facebook page, which is where we do a lot of the time tracking and publishing of information. That's Facebook Harmonic Convergence 2020 to 2028. And the handle is Harmonic Convergence 2028 at Facebook. So we encourage you to stay in touch. I mean, this is not the end of something so much as it's the continuity of this effort to shift consciousness. So
Yes. Yes, we are super grateful to everyone who has been with us along the journey, and super grateful with life that brought us here to this moment, and be able to witness everything that is happening on Earth.
What if the past, the present, and the future could
my apologies.
No worries. From this higher perspective, and be able to really witness with neutrality, with heart, but with a higher mind, everything that has been happening on planet Earth in 52 weeks. I think we were witnessing a momentous transformation, and this was actually described in the introduction to the original blog, when we were 1,440 days to the golden intersection of timelines. We are almost only 13 days to the date, and we give really thanks to life and to Creator for giving us the opportunity to make this work and make sacred, make art, like you always make emphasis on, and give thanks also to our team, and to everyone that has been supporting this work, because we certainly come every week here, every heptad, and we give our heart, and we give everything we can just to bring a small contribution to the field, so that it can harmonize, and it can be like a little hologram of harmony in these days that there is so much happening on Earth.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So thank you all. Let's go ahead and take the pulse of the Earth's pulse.
Yes.
All right.
And as we were covering last heptad on episode 51, there was so much happening on the global arena especially at the UN. We have a very, very active week that took place, and a lot has been said. A lot of there's a growing number of countries and people coming together to support the Palestine cause, to basically first stop this genocide that is happening. There are many presidents from different nations, including Colombia, which I feel very proud of the speech. I'm not really into politics, but I appreciate when someone speaks from the heart, and I noticed that some of these presidents really spoke from the heart, and as we can see here, there is an effort to bring attention to the subject all over the world, even here in Chiapas, where we are going to have in a couple of weeks the main event. There was thousands of people marching for the people of Gaza. We are very far away, but I think we all connect through our humanity. And of course, is also beautiful to see this flotilla of ships that is going to Gaza by sea, in the Mediterranean, and they have been under a lot of pressure, but they have so much merit for doing this and for really bringing the attention of the world to this area, the sacred land, with the intention of really showing that we are all just one human being, one human race. And we started this podcast precisely on October 7, on the anniversary of the spark, the first spark that ignited this last stage of the conflict, because this is a long conflict. It didn't start on October 7. So witnessing humanity arrive to this point as we arrive to the golden intersection is certainly no shorter than epic, and we give thanks. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. Lots of support, from the heart to our human family, and particularly those affected right now, directly being impacted.
Yeah. And I think from here to October 7 and to the golden intersection, we may see a lot of these developments really reaching a climax. So we hold space, like we always do, for the highest and most harmonious solution to become a reality.
It's a bit of a time loop also, and I think as we explore tonight, it becomes more and more evident, this time loop. As you mentioned, we initiated this 1 year after the October 7th event in 2023. We initiated this October 7th, 2024. And that's in that interesting window, that space that was removed in time back in 1582. So It's interesting things that seem to occur within this recursive pattern of that void in time. Now, what's also beautiful to note as we see this happening, we're also in the window where we are recognizing the rise of indigenous wisdom and the peoples of the world coming together as a wave of consciousness and heart, really a wave of heart, which reflects a wave of coherence. So, what we're witnessing is then in a way, the impact or harmonization of these otherwise troubling currents by something sacred and beautiful. Talk a little bit about what we witness here, what we're seeing coming up as of October 5th, as you mentioned, in advance of October 7th. There's a beautiful intervention, it appears to me to be.
Yes, well, there has been a pattern of October 4th and 5th synchronizing with important time markers, not only within the dream spell count, but also now it's synchronizing with the start of the most ancient count of the Maya, which is the Maya Quiche people from the lowland areas of Guatemala. We have the highland Maya, which is here in Mexico, and we have the lowland Maya, and they have differences, several differences in the way that they name the energies and the days, and the start specifically is what is important, because according to their ancestors, this is, I think, is an oral tradition according to the people from Maya Tecum, which we invite everyone just to visit that page if you want to learn with absolute precision and without the here I'm translating like what the idea that they are communicating, but it's much better to get it directly from the source. They are very, very careful with how they share the information, because they don't want to for the information to be translated in the wrong way or with a different intention. So we encourage people to go to mayatecum.com and learn more about this tradition, because this is the most sacred day for them. This is according to their tradition, the day eight bats, which is the equivalent of eight monkey or King 151, is the actual start of the count for them. So every time that they reach this energy, there is a preparation of almost 20 days prior to that on one bats, which is the equivalent of King 131, one monkey. They start preparing for the entrance of the new energy, the new count, or the new cycle of 260 days. And they create altars all over the land to honor that. And there is specifically, they start October 4th at 8 p.m. and they end October 5th at 8 p.m. too. So it's a 24-hour vigil. And it's interesting because it was during that window that this theft of time of the Gregorian reform took place. People went to sleep October 4th and they woke up October 5th. And now, like the elders in Guatemala, the original keepers of the wisdom who are still alive, they are holding vigil during that transition. So it's in the field. Don't know to what extent they are aware that this is happening, but we thought that it was very, very beautiful to have this synchronization as a preamble to the golden intersection, because it's the convergence of timelines.
Exactly. And it's interesting, too, in reading about their material, they light 44 candles as part of that opening ceremony. And then we've also noted in our series the 44-day difference, or the count difference between the traditional as well as the galactic Zolkin in terms of what they're tracking currently. And so currently, for this current 4-year window, they're 44 units apart in terms of that frequency. So that was interesting, the 44 candles, and the fact that it does show up. Now, mind you, it doesn't synchronize like this every year. It just so happens to be this year that that synchronization is happening. So it's important to note that, given the other things we see happening, and it feels like a more of an opening of the way, in a sense, literally 10 days, 9 or 10 days before the get, right? There's an opening of a way, an anchoring with this orientation to the natural time orientation for the new year, as you say, the Wak Shakib Bats, October 5th, 2025. And so it's interesting there, that happens to align with day 16, another reflection of the golden ratio, 1/6, 16 on Kin 195. Which happens to be the cosmic.
The 13
eagle, right?
Yes.
13. And so October 5th, so auspicious for people just to make conscious that window, October 5th to October 14th, was removed. So there is a bit of an adjustment, it seems, or some sort of reckoning with that error that
Yeah.
has been long noted as an error in time. So, yeah, very, very interesting to track that as we're seeing it right now.
Yeah, and that day would be also Alejandra's birthday, so we are also honoring the
Wow.
fact that as a team we are synchronizing with the date.
Incredible. I was just saying wow, and then here we go. Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. Now let's talk about this. 3i Atlas.
Yeah, this is probably people are seeing this name more and more.
More and more. It's a messenger
Yeah.
of some sort, it seems. What is the
Yes.
message? That is becoming more and more clear. Yeah, very interesting. There was a point in which they were saying a few days ago that the object was changing color. You remember that? Changing to green. I think we even had a highlight of that in the last episode. If I'm not mistaken, there was an image. I think it was 3i Atlas. But in any case, it's been emitting a green color
Yeah.
in recent days. So that's very interesting. Talk about what we see here.
Yeah, well, this is one of the latest articles from the scientist. I think his name is Avi Loeb. He's an astrophysicist from Harvard who has been really at the forefront of the news with this comet because he's the one that is bringing some attention to those characteristics of this interstellar object that are far from average. This is not like a normal comet. It seems like in his recent entries, he was basically saying that not only has a tail on its head, which is different to any comet, but that it is now coinciding or synchronizing with a strange signal that was nicknamed the wow signal. Not sure why, because I didn't went that far, but he was making emphasis that this took place on August 15, 1977, which happens to be Kin 44. Now that we were mentioning the 44 candles, and it's the eve of the harmonic convergence. So basically, the summary of the article is that on August 15, 1977, Ohio State University Big Ear Telescope detected the mysterious wow signal, a powerful narrow-band radio burst near the hydrogen line long suspected of possible extraterrestrial origin. Recent analysis suggests a striking coincidence. The interstellar object 3i Atlas was passing with a few degrees of signal source just days earlier, implying only a 0.6% chance of such alignment. So it seems like the probability of this body passing a few days before that signal was captured kind of adds a new layer of mystery around this object.
Like, wow.
Because, yeah, especially because we saw this is the a picture of the original decoding of the signal. Maybe on the next episode, the special +1 episode, we will have a little bit more clarity, because right now 3i Atlas is approaching Mars, which is seems like if we go to the next slide, we can see that thin red line in which we can see this object entering the solar system, especially the inner planets, Mars, Earth, Venus, and Mercury. But it after passing through Mars orbit, it bends a little bit and doesn't is not going to come really close to Earth. But the closest approach to Mars will happen on day 14 of this electric moon, on October 3rd. And it's the spectral Skywalker, which Skywalker is also an energy associated with Mars. Is the solar prophetic aspect of planet Mars, and it will approach closest to the sun on October 29th, on a spectral tone. So it seems like liberation seems part of the theme at this point, and the dissolution of all structures, because this double spectral tone is interesting. That would be on day 12 of the self-existing moon, October 29th.
Incredible. Wow. So all of this happening at once. I mean, there's no coincidence. We can just simply say there is connection.
Let's say that the convergence of timelines that we are witnessing, it may be showing different layers of convergence in space also. Convergence in time, convergence in space, and these celestial bodies that are approaching, because this is also the green bright comet that maybe you were seeing, because we have several of those, but the one that is kind of making more noise at the moment is comet C2025 R2, or SWAN, and it was confirmed on September 25th in images from SAHO, and that one is getting really big. It's going to be closest to planet Earth on October 19th, the second day of the self-existing moon, as we enter the green castle of enchantment. So there's a green comet approaching the Earth as we enter the green central castle, which is the last cycle of 52 days of the Soul King journey board.
So 20 days time from now, basically. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
20 days from now. So those are the kind of the last minute guests to the golden intersection that they are going to be probably around in the news for the next couple of weeks. So we wanted to make note of them and keep observing, especially 3i Atlas that is gaining momentum. We are actually doing a special broadcast with one of our guests on October 7th. She's going to be speaking more about this interstellar object, and of course we are here just really paying more attention to the dates of these closest approaches, so that we can have like a better or another story, another narrative of what is behind this mysterious last minute guest to the golden intersection of timelines.
Indeed. And shout out to Christina Shea. I know Ishel put a link in the live chat for folks to sign up via Calendly to join that space on her channel. I think there's a space for 500 folks in that conversation on October 7th, as you mentioned. So shout out to her for having us. The Quantum Healing Coach is what she goes by as well. And that'll be again on the afternoon of October 7th. So look in the live chat for the link for that. We'd love to see you all in that space.
And that would be the actual factual anniversary of our first broadcast. We are just...
that will be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will be it. Our next +1 episode will happen the day before, our 53, our Syrian Rebirth episode will happen the day before, and then we'll be very grateful to be in that space together with Christina at that point. So let's go ahead and sink in and tune up as we are going to do here for this episode 52. And so much happening and so much good coming through.
Yes.
Indeed. Of course, if you haven't already, you're welcome to go to theharmonicfactor.com and download the PDF of our 13 Moon 28-day harmonic synchronometer that we have there. It's very special because it does also include a fractal lens into navigating natural time and these sequences. Yep, and I'm going to let you go ahead and take over from there.
Yeah, we're right now, what we are seeing is the full 52 heptad hologram represented in the 13 moons. And we are on the third moon of the 13 moon year. This is the, as we can see on the next slide, this is the in the fractal count of one moon equals one kin, or one kin equals one moon. This entire moon is coded by kin 107, the blue electric hand, and within this fractal count, this is the first of a bundle of 4 years that start in 2025 with this with the color red and ends in 2029 on the last wave spell of 13 kin of this entire 52 moon cycle that we started in 2025, and we will end in 2029. And this fractal count is always good to remind people. Every 13 months we have 13 units that can be fractally measured in the same template that we use to measure 260 days. So in this template we're measuring 260 moons, and this was started in the year 1997 with the foundation work was the 20 tablets of the law of time. It's a fractal count that we have been just continuing, and from 1997 to 2017 we have the first 20 years. Those 20 years of 13 months each add to the 260 months, and since then we are on this yearly count of 13 moons equal 13 kin, and this would be the moon 107 since we closed the first hologram of 260 moon. And this energy of the year is important to notice. Also something, especially as a preamble to the conversation today, because as we can see on the next slide, this year of the yellow resonance seed, kin 124, would be the equivalent in a 52-year template or 260-year template of kin 39, which happens to be the blue cosmic storm. So this is what we see here in magenta, the magenta square, and that's these coordinates really are telling us a little bit about the background energy behind this year 2025 to 2026, or the year of the yellow resonance seed, because we created another infographic showing this hand wave spell on the year basis, so that we can really see the hologram. If you can see the next slide, this is basically the position that we are within this castle of 52 years that will correspond to New Zero Cycle 1, from 1987 to 2039. And each of those years will correspond to one kin. So the year of 1987 to 1988 will correspond basically to the kin 1 year, and the next year to kin 2, and so forth. So we are 39 years in this year. So the entire year is really also the ending of a cycle of 13 kin, where each kin is 1 year, where that we started in the year 2013, and we are ending the year 2026. And this wave spell is really special. We covered that in April, and letting people know that because it holds the start of the Galactic Maya count on Kin 34 and the end of this cycle of 52 years on Kin 33, the out of time of 2039, that this wasteful is like a holographic container for the entire history of the, or the foundation of this count, because as we covered during those episodes back in April, we can use this wasteful as a container to redeem these nuclear explosions that took place on Earth. The first nuclear explosion on Earth took also place on Kin 34 in Trinity, and the second one was in Hiroshima on Kin 55. One was redeemed by the start of the 13 moon year, the first 13 moon year, and the other one was redeemed by the harmonic convergence on Kin 55. So on the next slide, we can actually see that that this last unit of this wasteful corresponds to the time shift, and the time shift is connected to this shift in frequencies. So we can say actually that this entire year is a holographic container for the time shift, because we are in year 39, even though this is new zero cycle 1.38, just because we start counting with the 0 instead of 1. But this gives us like a really new approach, because our guest will speak today about becoming the eye of the storm. And certainly as we close this entire, or wrap up this cycle of 13 years that will correspond in that fractal count to the wasteful of the hand, the wasteful of healing, and the accomplishment of that healing is tone 13. So we can also read the energy as a way to bring back that moment of the time shift, which according to the analysis of the law of time, all of life on Earth is governed by a common universal timing frequency, mathematically represented by the ratio 1320. Only the humans have deviated from this frequency, operating instead by the mechanistic and artificial 1260 timing frequency. As of July 26, 1992, Kin 39, Blue Cosmic Storm, through a concerted effort, a small element of humanity began to become aware of the possibility of returning to the natural timing frequency through the adoption of the regular and harmonic 13 moon calendar. The time shift refers to the shift in perception and consciousness away from the 1260 and back to the 1320 timing frequencies. As of day out of time 2000, this small element of human consciousness operating by the 1320 timing frequency has come to constitute a minute but critical mass of the entire human species dispersed around the globe. And that's the definition of the time shift. It's a really an important moment in which we enter the new frequency. And or at least that critical mass, or the small element of human consciousness entered that frequency. So this is a beautiful also way of seeing the golden intersection as part of that time shift, as part of the redemption of the old timelines and the old narratives, and the entrance of the new frequencies.
It's incredible as you describe it, because, of course, I mean, as you mentioned, we're in the 39th year.
Yeah.
And as we know, these packages of 13-year cycles, for example, they're complete cycles within themselves. 13 is complete within itself, though when you compound that, and get 26, 39, 52, and on and on and on. It's incredible. And so the chance, the opportunity to know and make conscious that for the past 13 years, since December 21st, 2012, which was kin 207, it was the crystal hand. The hand frequency is obviously woven throughout this effort to counterbalance and counterspin, as you mentioned, the actions of detonating the atomic bombs in the 1940s and other things that have occurred since then. So it's incredible, though, just to make conscious that we can do the repair work, we can do the transmutation work when we actually do, direct our consciousness that way through these codes.
Yeah, and I was actually doing the curating of this episode, checking that wave spell of the hand. The last one was full of important events. We have the Pope passing on kin 28, and of course the completion of 53 galactic spins from the new dispensation of time. So there was like really important markers. I invite people to check those posts from those. They are on our Facebook page, or you can go to and look for the episode in April, and we really covered that in a very detailed way and careful way, because it is an important aspect of this entire science to focus the attention on that wave spell, because it's where the roots of the intention behind this count are really hidden, because this is not like many people don't know this, because it's been like these are a work that has been just revealing itself over the years, and for us some of these just came recently to our attention.
And so also we see the hand here in the example of the fractal energy for this current electric moon, right? Moon of service, tone of service, and it's accompanied by kin 107 as the frequency for the entire 28-day cycle in the one kin equals one moon fractal count, as you mentioned. So we're seeing another layer of the hand, in other words. We're in this 39th year. That's that blue hand wave spell from kin 27. We see ourselves now coded with the 107 for this moon. And then we also know that, again, we're going to meet kin 207 just a few days after the golden intersection of timelines. So everything is being handily contained by the hand. There's a lot of healing and accomplishment, thereby a lot of accomplishment happening right now.
Yes, and it's also important to remind people that because of the leap day anomaly is the reason that we don't have kin 207 synchronized with 4 Ahau or for October 14, because every 4 years, every leap year, February 29th, the galactic count stops, and we have the 00 Hunapku day, but the ancient Maya long count keeps rolling. It's an independent count, free from the Gregorian calendar. It's self-existing. While the dream spell is more like a transitional calendar that it was created originally for humans to focus the attention on the frequency shift from the 12 months to the 13 moons, from the 12 to the 13.
To help address that mental malady, that issue, by those of us affected by the colonizer's calendar. Honestly, that was the reason for the dream spell, was meant to actually correct that as far as the Western mind is concerned.
And it was the incubation took place at a time where we didn't have the internet at the time in 1987. So it was a very pure form that was foreseeing what the path of technology. The Mayan factor was basically presenting us the path beyond technology, and of course the frequency shift from 12 to 13 is that shift from the path of technology to the path beyond technology.
Wow. And so here we also see the color coding for the wave spells themselves, those 13-day cycles. We're currently navigating the blue night wave spell, and the golden intersection of timelines, interestingly, occurs within the yellow warrior wave spell. Now we know yellow warrior's solar seal 16, which again is a representation of the golden ratio, 1/6. So beautifully contained throughout. It's just amazing.
Yes, this is like we can actually we were talking a couple of days ago that it is to summarize is all the synchronicities that are leading to the golden intersection is so difficult because there are so many of them.
Yeah.
And we just want to highlight the most important ones so that we don't get distracted by too many things, but really pay attention to the main events that are taking place that are by themselves really mind-blowing.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, so these are just little ornaments within this larger tapestry of synchronicities leading to the golden intersection. And as we were saying, on our last episode, today happens to be King 189, which is the birth sign of Alberto Ruz Lugier, the archaeologist, who discovered the ancient tomb of Pakal Botán in the year 1952, the year that our guest Dan Winter was born. So as another sync, and as we can see on the next slide, this is a photograph of him looking at one of the heads, clay heads that were found in Palenque, which is Pakal, and it is funny because on the dream spell, they, as we have said this before, March 23rd of the year 603, the birth date of Pakal Botán on the Gregorian calendar, or at least on the adjustment of the Gregorian calendar, would be King 189. So basically, here is like the discovery and the discoverer watching each other, seeing each other to the eye, both really connected by this same energy of the red resonant moon.
Powerful syncs indeed. I love that image.
Yeah, it's really tells a story. And of course, this is the wave spell within the 260-day Soul King matrix. It goes from King 183, the blue magnetic night, to the King 195, the blue cosmic eagle, which will synchronize this cycle of dreaming abundance with that beginning. So the closing of this 13-day cycle will start with the beginning of that 260-day cycle for the Maya Quiche people, and it's also beautiful because the eagle is one of the totems here of the land, along with the serpent. So it's kind of giving us that the highest vision, the eagle, of what is happening right before we enter the golden intersection on the warrior wave spell. Yeah, and maybe just remind people also that the golden intersection will happen on the last uh, wave spell of the yellow castle.
Mm,
And so it would be yellow king, yellow wave spell, yellow castle, yellow year, the yellow resonant seed year. So we have compounding presence of color yellow for the golden intersection,
which
which is
implies ripening, harvest, completion, fulfillment, you know,
yes.
parallel with accomplishment, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful. Absolutely.
That's it. The beautiful way of reading the layers
Yes.
of harmony that this is bringing to our consciousness.
Mm, mm. So powerful, so beautiful. Well, let's keep moving. Time is art, and we have a wonderful interview to share with you all this evening. We're going to share a few slides just to prep the interview.
Hmm.
But without further ado, let's move into that. Thank you for staying tuned with us. Indeed, collective synchronicity and the deep science of fractality in time. That is the theme for the Time is Art segment for tonight. And again, we were so grateful that Dan Winter has made himself available to join us and share from his wealth of knowledge and perspective into this opportunity, this moment that we're all moving toward as a
Mhm.
collective. Now, some of us are moving there consciously as a collective, and that's a very exciting piece of this. Everybody's going to move through this.
Yeah.
Now, many people might not be aware of what this is that they're moving through, though many people will. And we're focused on those who will right now so that we can also synergize and synchronize with each other deliberately, whether you're
Mhm.
in Palenque or you're anywhere else in the world. This is a noospheric level, planet-wide level event, planetary synchronization. So we just wanted to frame that a little bit as we look at this and sort of open the space to receive the wisdom from Dan Winter.
Yes, and especially because this is episode 52, and we are basically collapsing these compounding waves of cycles.
Yeah.
This is we wanted to really create a few slides to show this cascading effect that is taking place. And let's remember that in a nutshell, the golden intersection of timelines is an unprecedented synchronization between the long count, the Solkin or Cholkij, the Gregorian calendar, and the 13 moon synchronometer that is coordinated by the golden ratio, which is expressed as the number 1.61803, and that is unique and unrepeatable in character. It will never happen again because once we pass that threshold of the golden number, it just keeps moving. But we are in that window of time right now, and it brings the convergence of past, present, and future at a key historical moment for humanity, and it holds a mathematical and astronomical and cultural significance of unique qualities also. And here we just want to express, yeah, in one graphic what is taking place and honoring always the banner of peace. There is the convergence of past, present, and future that is taking place. Those are the three spheres of the banner of peace that are intertwined by the phi ratio, or the golden number, or the golden ratio, the sacred divine proportion. And this, like we were saying before, it's not only past, present, and future converging, is art, science, and spirituality also converging on this date. We have the science, which is the mathematics and the counting the cycles of time, the sacred geometry. We have the art, which is also related to sacred geometry and the way that the Maya recorded time as an art, and spirituality, because this is really an opportunity to connect with the higher aspects of ourselves, with capital S. This aspect of us that is invisible but is connected to source, and that is kind of reminding us through the numbers and through this language that nature uses to give us like this high five, as like, don't worry, I got this covered, guys. Just keep moving and keep listening, because we are with an open heart, listening with an open heart without judging. We cannot really fall into that trap of judging and entering the drama at the same level that is being playing out, because what the golden intersection really is like a sword that cuts through all those layers of illusion and manipulation, and it's really telling us with precise coordinates that we are entering a sacred window of time, and that as we can see on our next slide, this really marks really in a nutshell is the convergence of 5 mathematical cycles or frequencies. A cycle, the big cycle, which is at the top of this graphic with the pentagram, is the 20 Bactun cycle. Let's remember that the golden intersection of timelines will happen precisely on the same energy or day that the long count initiated and ended on December 21st, 2012, which is the day for Ahau. But it also happening on October 14, which is the first day of Bactun 21. Once we finish that hologram of 20 Bactuns, it's called a Pictun, we'll be entering Bactun 21. So that's a beautiful quantum jump from Bactun 13 to Bactun 21. On that's kind of the largest hologram, or the largest wave that is collapsing, because this is a preparation for what Dan is going to share with us in a very technical language. That what we may be seeing here is the collapsing of waves. In this case, every wave would be a cycle of time that is nested within larger waves, and that nesting is really orchestrated by the golden ratio. So we have almost zero resistance, and there is a cascading effect of cycles taking place. So in this cascading effect, the largest cycle will be the 20 Bactun. The next cycle would be the cycle of 443 years as a unit of the golden ratio in days. The blue cycle would be the cycle of the long count of the 360-day count, the Tun count, that goes from 13.0.0.0, December 21st, 2012, to October 14, 2025, 13 cycles of 360 days. Then we have also the synchronization with the sacred count of 260 days that we mentioned at the beginning. The day for Ahau is the equivalent of day 160, the golden ratio of the Solkin cycle. and that synchronization is because there are 13 cycles of 360 days comprised within December 21st, 2012 to October 14, 2025, which is the same amount of days of 18 cycles of 260 days. This is why I was making mention before that it's not on crystal hand because of the Hunaku 00. It's only 3 days later that we will have King 207, the blue crystal hand. But because the ancient count of 260 days doesn't stop and is synchronized with the long count, then these two cycles show a perfect coherent synchronizations, 18 cycles of 260 days for 13 cycles of 360 days. And the last cycle that we are measuring, which is based on the 13 moon 28 day synchronometer, and that is just also part of a dispensation or a terma that was discovered by Dr. Jose Arguelles Balumbotan of cycles of 144 days that were preceding the galactic synchronization. So we will be completing cycle 31 from entering cycle 32 and closing cycle 31, and before that there was 7 cycles more of 144 days before galactic synchronization. So we are closing 38 total cycles of 144 days since this terma was revealed, and we'll be entering cycle 39 also of 144 days. That's an important point to keep, because there is this resonance of the year 39 and 39 cycles of 144 days that we are entering on October 15. That's another one of the other reasons that is important too, because we have been witnessing that some people are mentioning that is only October 14 the important day, or only October 15, but it's really the window, because in some parts of the planet will be already October 15, but for us will be October 14. So to keep that balance and to keep the noospheric time together or coherent, we recommend to observe both days. And Dan is going to also speak today about the importance of connecting in the mornings when there is an energy coming, like the equinox or at the beginning of the every day, the sunrise is the moment that those two vortices or waves of energy of the planet and the sun kind of entrain in a golden ratio wavelength. So the last slide is the same expression of this, but seeing as these collapsing nested cycles, where the red golden rectangle comprised of 4 Fibonacci spirals is basically the largest container, then the Gregorian calendar container with the cycle of 443 years or 161,803 days. Then the 360-day count in blue, the 260-day count in yellow, until we reach the center, the 144-day count. These are the basic cycles that are really cascading in and collapsing on this day. So there are other important synchronicities that we recommend people to just check the white paper or check the original article, so that you can really learn about everything that has been piling up for the date.
Piling up to collapse.
Yes.
Like piling up. to enter the center.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wanted to mention this as well, that 144-day cycle that Arguelles started to note. He began counting that October 22nd, right?
Oh yeah.
So very
Yeah.
interesting. There's a continuity there. October 21st
Yeah.
is in the temple. October 22nd. We're doing this in the month of October altogether. There's a certain collapsing, evidently, that's also happening around this so-called Gregorian October month.
Yes.
So we're
Yes.
entering a very important window. And I'll also remind people that this year, 2025, has been declared the International Month of Cooperatives, that being
Oh yeah.
October. So you'll hear more about that in the field as well, through the harmonic factor, as well as buildabetterworld.iwb.coop. Without further ado, however, I think we should go ahead and get into sharing
Yeah.
this fantastic exchange with Dan Winter, Kin 109, who we were very, very honored to have as our guest for this episode 52 of the Galactic Spin Podcast. So
Yep.
thank you all again for staying tuned and enjoy this exchange as much as we did. Thank you so much. It is with great gratitude we are honored to welcome our guest, Dan Winter. Kin 109, I will add. Wonderful to meet you. Tuning in from Paris, France. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Actually, South France, but yeah, happy to meet you. I love the way you say Mikuak and Rubén. This is very esoteric. Happy to be here, really.
Well, we're honored to have you. And for those of our audience tuning in, I want to posit, I mean, we have a very lengthy, exhaustive bio on you that I found online, but I want to just tap in a little bit for our purposes today. I mean, you have a very vast bio, and I want to invite anybody to visit your Amazon bio, if that's a great reference, because it's a very good, comprehensive for folks to reference. But just to really sum it up, can you just give us a snapshot on how you would describe yourself? I think that would be the most appropriate way to enter the conversation together.
Well, thank you. My graduate work was in psychophysiology and biofeedback, electrical engineering, and then I was a systems analyst with IBM, trained in Detroit, Chicago, Poughkeepsie. I've taught physics with consciousness for about 30 years. I was electrical engineer in the family business for many years. And now I have a whole line of inventions, all based on fractality, actually fractality in time, where the charge collapse in the invention actually is commercially negentropic, self-organizing, healing our phi ray, our piezo fire. So we have a lot of gadgets. You can see them all at phiray.com. And further now, we have what is an extension of, Jose's fractality in time in a much higher level of physics, if I may say humbly, at fractalgut.com, which is the world's #1 grand unified field theory of everything tau, fractalgut, grand unified theory.com. And basically, it has lots of equations, which is proof, really, really proof, that our original statement that time is merely a name for relative spin rate. And once you understand that, you can understand embedding fractality in time and coincidence. So that's where we're going with this. And Rubén has questions.
Well, first of all, Dan, it is such an honor to share this space with you as we approach this special moment that we also have identified as a special opportunity to appreciate all your discoveries, seeing from the perspective of the Mayan timekeeping science. And first of all, I would like to know how, just as a brief introduction, also how you met Jose, because you are part of a generation that
Very well.
You are one of the few people who are still alive, who shared wisdom with him. And what was your relationship with him? How did you find unified perspectives around fractality and time?
Well, I was one of the bolder crowd, and I don't know if you know Wendy Thacker or Greg Hogue, Metaforms, or Stephanie Sutton Dearborn. Those were all best buddies of Jose. And so they were very much into that, especially Greg Hogue, actually. And then I also knew Jose when he did his lecture tours in France, and I spoke on the same stage with him many times. And I was around in those days when really, after the harmonic convergence, he had great depression and maybe alcoholism related to the death of his son. And so I knew a lot of the personal drama, and we don't need to get into that. But the original insight, about, for example, a dream spell was fabulous. Literally now we are teaching the physics of lucid dreaming. I do mean the physics. We know exactly what causes lucid dreaming. It's a frequency signature, luciddreamteam.com. And so when you called it a dream spell, he got it right on, actually, because what they call a dreaming track in Australia is actually a node in a longitudinal array. And the compression nodes in that longitudinal array become compressed and function in that array, which is the only Aboriginal name for God, which is ancestor memory. And ancestor memory inhabits that array, which is literally a dream spell. And today we commercially teach the physics of luciddreamteam.com, and we have technologies in plasma which create lucid dreaming replicably. So a dream spell is the right name. So Jose got some things right. And he also did the thing of interesting many young people. He was, he wasn't a scientist, wasn't a physicist. No, he really didn't quite get there. But his talent for artistically interesting so many young people, and he was right about another thing, that if you measure time correctly, you can embed in time. And that non-destructive implosive compression in time is the physics of synchronicity. And that's where we're going.
That's where we're going.
Well, that certainly brings to mind for me then the observation that we made in the year 2018, we call the golden intersection of timelines. And we shared that with you when we presented our humble white paper, I'll call it, because I've seen your work, and obviously we don't profess to be anything at that caliber, although we did make this observation that seemed to really be noteworthy. And in that, we were also drawn to your work and your description of phase conjugation and this implosion you're speaking of as perhaps being something that as a collective, as a planetary body, that we're actually entering or nearing a threshold of. And that's what seems to have occurred to us in the work of observing the golden intersection of timelines, where we're marking on October 15th a sum of 161803 days since the founding of the Gregorian calendar, at the same time as the traditional Maya count reaches its own 13.0.1300 marker, as well as then kin 161 and 160. So all of them bearing, some expression of the golden ratio. So then in learning of your work, as Rubén mentioned, he'd been tracking your work for several years. I learned of your work in the past few years as well, and have been doing my best to also make sense, because your work is phenomenal. And the timing of it couldn't be better, because it seems what you've described, it's very exciting. And for us, it's just like, wow, we really wanted to have you in the conversation now, as we're, within a couple of weeks of this marker in time, specifically, as far as that's concerned, where collectively we're going to meet a moment, we believe, of incredible harmony, a harmonic threshold of sorts. So in relationship to your work, what are you observing, given the timing of things? What are you seeing in the field, both in the astral with your work with your colleagues, which we've also been following, great work with them, Delia, Jake,
yes.
As well, though, in that plane or in that field, but as well here on the 3D with what we see happening on the world stage. We're curious to know your perspective as to what we see happening in the phenomena of life right now, given these other factors that we've observed.
Well, I think maybe we should start with core concepts here. So, I think I showed the picture before. We don't need to get it out now, but Geoff Stray's book on the Mayan calendar, he showed a golden ratio series of projections in time, starting with the Mayan day one, as it were, which was an interesting cascade, implying collapse and therefore synchronicity. But actually, it wasn't solid in physics. What it turns out to be solid in physics is the musical key signature of every wave physics has ever measured is called Planck length and time. It's the musical fundamental of the universe, and every wave in physics divides evenly. So now we do have a point from which to start very accurately. And if you take Planck, golden ratio, which is fractality perfected, powers times Planck, you get the Schumann harmonics, the brainwave harmonics for bliss, Earth year, Venus year, galactic year, precession of the year, 200 physical variables, plancfire.com, PLANCKPHIRE.com. And by the way, then when you add the proton to that, you get about 200 more, including the galactic microwave radiation. So clearly, Planck is the place to start the cascade. That's the physics. And once you do that, then you discover that, for example, the pyramids are powered by that same frequency cascade we call Schumann, which is actually called the phase conjugate pump wave, which also literally powers the brain waves during bliss, powers the spine liquid during Kundalini, and powers the charge collapse of the only possible global wireless power and source of vacuum energy. So starting with Planck is really important. Let me just talk about the moon for a minute. It was convenient that the moon did divide about 13 times into the year. However, you really need a little background there. The moon, the Andromedans dragged it in here after they bombed the hell out of the Atlanteans, and the solar system was falling apart. It's called the Lesser Dryad about 12,000 years ago. It's hollow and metal and anti-dielectric, and if you want a seed to grow, you must avoid it. It's fundamental to know. And so it blocks the longitudinal wave from the sun that causes seeds to germinate. So the moon, and yet if it was towed out of here, the Earth would fall out of orbit. So we need the moon, but it actually ain't the way to time fractality. In fact, if you take the cascade of golden ratio times Planck, it comes to around 32 days, not 28, 32.75 actually. So the point of what is the point of all of that? The point is that once you know that time is only a name for relative spin rate, nothing else. Einstein's core fusion to say space-time is bent was a way of confusing the poor kids. No, Einstein didn't know what made the centripetal force called gravity that caused spin rate to accelerate when you accelerate mass. Now, once you know why anything is centripetal like gravity and consciousness, which Einstein didn't, then you know exactly why your wristwatch speeds up when you accelerate. Because part of the inertia of acceleration is to experience what's called translation of vorticity. So you're accelerating the toroid, and in the process, a portion of that accelerational inertia accelerates the spin rate named time. That's why your wristwatch speeds up when you go toward the speed of light. It's really quite simple once you know what time is. The reason that's important is because you're looking for coincidence. I mean, our whole lives, this whole conversation we're having today is, oh, if we had more coincidence, then we'd have more order. It's called Origin of Negentropy, the title of the book. And so what allows rotations to exchange inertia by golden ratio fractal embedding is specifically the only definition of coincidence, actually. It's charge rotations that are able to exchange inertia successfully. For example, the reason the Earth's orbital period and Venus's orbital period are so exquisitely heart-shaped pent golden ratio, they're exchanging inertia efficiently. Do you get it? That's synchronicity.
Coherence,
so by marking out a synchronous calendar, you got a fabulous thing. But it's important to start by understanding what time and synchronicity is. So let's see, there's one more little note on here. Oh, and what is Planck? We talked about a dream spell. We talked about what it is. So
I will add for people who are just tuning in to your work and what is the Planck scale. Is it accurate to describe the Planck scale as the minimum scale that we can use to measure matter, so that people can get like an idea? Because I saw that you map on that Planck scale like the mass from the mass of an quantum particle to the supercluster of galaxies, and those points along that growth of matter kind of can be they create like a constant. Is that a correct way of describing it?
Yes. So Planck length and time is the unit of length and time into which every wave in physics divides evenly. It is the resolution of the quantum foam. It is the only definition of any form of quantization. It is the musical key signature of the universe, and it's the same for 1 billion light years in all directions. And so you do golden ratio times Planck, and you got fractality, implosion, charge collapse, perfected, the origin of all centripetal force. And that charge collapse due to Planck and golden ratio, called PlanckFire.com, is the electric reason gravity exists. It's the reason perception and bliss exists. The liquid crystal vortex of charge in the synaptic array of your brain gets centripetal because of Planck fire and golden ratio, the physics of bliss. It is the reason seeds germinate. It's the reason soul and bliss exists. It's the reason pyramids and obelisks can make global wireless power. It's the reason zero-point energy and vacuum energy exists. Is the reason golden ratio is the dominant geometry of all orbital mechanics. That is a smoking gun. It's the reason electron shells and nuclear hadrons are all simply a platonic nest, because that makes golden ratio collapse. It is the electric reason for all action at a distance, longitudinal entanglement. So you take that, now let's see here, you take that Planck times golden ratio, you get 200 physical variables in every interesting unit of time, from hydrogen radii to Earth year, Venus year, galactic year, and 200 other astronomic variables now at fractalgut.com, because nothing can be centripetal or negentropic or self-organizing without that.
Mm-hmm.
Consciousness and gravity are centripetal. Einstein didn't know why, but now we do.
Mm-hmm.
So without Planck, which, as you said, is the baseline from where to begin,
Absolutely.
then we're not doing
Right.
anything, right? So,
And when you take that up to the Schumann cascade,
Mhm.
7.8 hertz and cascade, which is the only frequencies of brain waves that make bliss, and the only frequencies of the spine liquid pump that make kundalini, and the only frequencies of the phase conjugate pump wave that make all wireless power and make pyramids work, you understand what a phase conjugate pump wave is. It is the definition of implosion, which Hermes called the caduceus, who I think is Quetzalcoatl Viracocha, which I think is behind who you call Pakal Votan. Was that my birth date or what?
It's the year you were born. It was the year that his sarcophagus was discovered. And
1952. Yeah.
yeah.
When I was in Mexico, somebody said November 13, 1952 was supposed to be the date of the return of.
Yeah. So the heart. I want to talk about the heart for a moment,
Sure.
because we talk about the I guess this collapsing that occurs right now. The heart is, as we've learned and come to know, is also it's responsible for facilitating that action, is it not? I mean, it seems like it's just designed by creation to do that. So maybe speak about that.
Being credited in the literature for inventing the word heart coherence, realheartcoherence.com. Of course, I have an opinion.
Okay.
No, I spent about 20 years, and I invented spectrum analysis of EKG, and I invented heart coherence. And heart math, well, they kind of screwed it up, but it's okay. By the way, they got one thing right. They call heart coherence the Mayer wave, the 10-second breath, and that is useful. It's because they don't know why the 10-second breath, 0.1 hertz, is golden ratio times Planck, and the most important frequency in the body and the blood and the spine liquid and the breath is the LF component of HRV, which is how you steer your spine liquid and breathe to have kundalini and bliss. So all of those things in the heart harmonics mean that heart harmonics have to embed precisely in brainwave harmonics and breath harmonics and planetary harmonics, all precisely golden ratio implosive cascade. And we worked that out in such detail at goldenmean.info/kundalini. I mean, we know how to measure, of course, kundalini in the brain waves and the EKG and the spine liquid pump. But did you know that we know how to measure kundalini in the microwave? It was in Greg Hoag's living room, Jose's best buddy, with Wendy Thacker, another Jose's best buddy, that Bob Dratch lined up his microwave scanner down her spine, 1.91 angstroms, the key wavelength of adenosine triphosphate, the most important frequency in the microwave in the body, ATP. And it turns out that the body's radiance in that microwave measures kundalini and spine liquid. He interpreted her spine liquid microwave, and she was crying because he mapped the history of trauma of her youth. And then he showed with the same microwave amplifier that the Earth grid is profoundly symbiotic to biologic microwave from ATP. Hello, this is the DNA radio physics. And all of this is part of the cascade that documents what kundalini is, and we have the best documentaries on that. goldenmean.info/kundalini. I'm sorry I talked too fast.
Oh, it's great. I love it. Rubén, I'm sure Rubén loves it too.
I love it.
Been doing this too long, but go ahead.
No, thank you. Wow. So speaking of Kundalini, speaking of the heart, and speaking of that breath rate, you mentioned the 10 seconds. There was
Yes,
now
Mayer
is
wave.
that in terms of, say, just as an idea, if a person were to time their breathing at a pace or rate of 10 seconds, are they going to naturally match frequency with a greater field in creation
Absolutely.
itself? Okay.
In fact, that so 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, the Mayer wave breath is the most important yoga breath. It's the most important spine liquid breath, the Kundalini breath. It's the only thing heart math calls heart coherence. Actually, heart coherence is harmonic inclusive, not exclusive. But if you want to be inclusive, the only way you can measure immune health in HRV is harmonic inclusiveness. And the only way to get inclusive is golden ratio.
So it's in everything, and yeah, this is great. So as the golden intersection of timelines approaches that we have on some level established, obviously we're speaking of golden ratio in space largely in this conversation, physics, right? But though also to consider time, though time be spin rate, time is also, well, I guess it's its own, it's a vibration, right? I mean, I guess time is an expression of vibration if it's talking about spin rate.
Rate of spin, yes, which
spin.
has both a wavelength and a period. So
Okay.
basically, charge, the superfluid we call charge, also called the ether, is compressible. It behaves as a superfluid, and when that rotates, that's the only definition of mass. You stored inertia, you call it mass, and the rotation of that charge has a period. The only definition of time. And so, and when those rotational periods nest, embed by golden ratio, they can exchange inertia between the short wave and the long wave, called synchronicity.
So October 14th and 15th, could this very well then be an opportunity to exchange synchronicity if we are to attune ourselves into the phenomena of creation that somehow seems to express the golden ratio in a matter of days? A count of days, fractally expressed 161,803 days. We call it Phi Day. We've called it Phi. We've kind of put that out there just to say, hey, this has to be Phi Day because of the number. So I guess my question is, as humans become conscious of that marker, could we, for example, synchronize with the greater phenomena in this moment that seems to be expressing this exquisite nature that it possesses or is informed by in that moment, to the effect of actually activating, engaging our heart equipment at this 10-second rate? Not that we're going to master this in a few weeks, but I'm just saying, what do you see happening to the collective, even though we've identified these kind of markers to suggest, hey, step into that field? What's been happening to us organically anyway? Is there something that's pulling us, I'm wondering, as a collective? We have our individuated abilities and consciousness, but there seems to be something of a tapestry that we're woven by that's pulling us from the future.
I like it. I like you. I like your thought, actually. And by the way, I do have the intuition that some great still point, I would call it a still point, approaches around mid-October. And I don't know about the place from which you started that cascade. I have not evaluated enough. But I can say intuitively, I believe you're on a very useful track. And I'd like to use an example. We know the physics of why, if you do Agnihotra precisely at sunrise, sunset, you get dramatic fertility effect. The Bhopal survivors survived, and the Nagasaki survivors from Agnihotra. The reason sunrise and sunset worked was the right angle of the longitudinal wave, called four-wave mixing, or sacred four directions in ancient, but in physics it's called four-wave mixing, the definition of phase conjugation. So all of our plasma technologies also work better at sunrise, sunset. Now, what that is a convergence point where you can get leverage because you embed in the center point where waves can agree, which is sometimes called the longitudinal node. So where waves can agree, which is the only definition of still point, if you extend that to longer and longer wavelengths, you come to exactly the kind of thing you are talking about. And basically, the bigger the still point you inhabit, the bigger the tornado you can steer. But in order to inhabit that still point, you might need to sit and inhabit a lightning bolt, actually. In other words, you would need to be able to handle the bliss to be able to steer that larger tornado. But absolutely, the power spectrum would suggest that you could embed in a very long wave. And Earth has a lot of tornadoes that need steering. So I like it, actually.
Yeah, it seems. I look at your work also, and you do talk about what I would term interference.
Yes.
So there being interferences that may also be occurring right now as we're reaching this phenomenal crescendo of sorts, or a still point, as you mentioned. It seems there's a lot of interference happening as well, psychically, energetically. I know you all do the astral work as well that has its implications in the physical. So what is the interference about right now, and why does it seem that it's trying to interfere or impede this otherwise future informed process that's under, give us a sense.
I like future informed. Future informed is a good metaphor. Actually, so interferometry, constructive interferometry, is another name for all of physics. Physics only exists because of constructive interference. Obviously, if waves didn't agree, physics wouldn't exist. So, but perfect agreement is where short waves and long waves can agree, and that's our concept of fractal synchronicity. Now, but what you're getting to at a deeper level is, well, who are the bad guys in this story? Now, we have a very clear idea who the bad guys are in this story. Remember when Graham Hancock said he had like 15 ancient civilizations, they all emerged from catastrophe, and who walked out of the water but Apkallu, who is Hermes Thoth, Ningishita Thoth, who happens to be Viracocha Quetzalcoatl, Paco Votan, probably. So he walked out of the water with his team and saved civilization how many dozen times with his caduceus, otherwise known as phase conjugation. Now, who was the opposing force, which is your question of interference? The opposing force, in our view, is quite clear. The scourge of our galaxy is a black sun, black cube cult, Aten from Andromeda, propagated from there by the Mitra, locally by the Atorthans, and behind most Earth religions, the black cube of Mecca and the black cube of the Kaaba of the Jews. Unfortunately, we believe is a parasitic root of most Western religions. And for example, Moses, the one God religion guy, his Aten was a black sun, black cube, interstellar dangerous parasite, which eats souls and consumes Lush. And that's the Grim Reaper who comes to eat souls after death. So yes, I would say there's interference for sure. The cool thing is, if humans get a source of bliss, they're no longer food into the mouth of a hungry parasite. But humans who don't have their own source of bliss can't steer their own tornado. Another way of saying it really is, look, what you're saying is more bliss is possible on the date you point to. I think you're probably right. And I think that's good physics. But when somebody says more bliss is possible on that day, it would also mean that your body would need to inhabit a bigger lightning bolt. I mean, more charge density. I mean, more purification. I mean, have you processed your negative emotions? In other words, are you ready for bliss or death, which are the same electrically, a compression event?
Yeah.
So you're also saying to get to the negentropy, you got to go through your negative stuff. You got to deal with your unattended stuff, basically.
It's just like at the moment of death, you got to do this beautiful compression thing in order to embed in the array of ancestor memory, sometimes called heaven. And if you don't compress well, and by the way, the wave shape of anger in Sentix, the emotion of anger, 1/7, is precisely the opposite of compressible, means it ain't never going to go through death. Sorry, guys.
So the eye of the needle metaphor maybe applies then.
But it's a very specific kind of compression event.
Right.
And so to inhabit great compression, that's why there are places at Sintra where the monks always went crazy and had too much kundalini. It's a Cork monastery. It was intensively blissful. And anybody who wasn't ready, I mean, they had a place where they had such a big nut house, So you got to be ready for intense bliss, which means prepare your show.
Wow. Rubén, I mean, I'm going all over the place. I love
it because Dan mentioned something that I wanted to make a point, because you said that you haven't kind of confirmed where's the wavelength or the wave that we are anchoring this point in time, and basically what we saw is basically that same collapsing of different wavelengths on that day, being the Backtune count, the larger wave.
Could be. Could
Yeah,
be.
20 Bactunes. And then this fractal of 443 years of the Gregorian calendar that happens to match with the fractal expression of the phi ratio, 161,803 days. So basically, if we measure 443 orbits of the Earth around the Sun, we will arrive to the golden number in days. That's
It turns out that the Earth year is beautifully fractal to Planck, and the day is close. And since your Pakal Votan is behind a lot of your calculations, and I'm very confident that's essentially means Quetzalcoatl Veracocha, whom, by the way, Dahlia has met on the astral, and he does look like a cross between a serpent and a snake, by the way. He's there. He's real. This is not a myth. No, this is somebody that's very intelligent who designed this compressibility we today call the caduceus, because that means phase conjugation. So I suspect this is a useful approach.
Wonderful. Yeah, because on your video that we are going to also share in the comments of this video about Mayan time vindicated, you make mention of the out of time at that 0 point when all these waves kind of collapse in time. And it's of course connected also to this energy of the rising of the star Sirius in the horizon at 19.5 degree latitude in Mexico.
They call it the Sothis cycles. Basically, the non-destructive collapse does one thing specifically. The transverse inertia at the implosive 0 point, tuned to Planck, and as you say, the Pakal Votan story. What the non-destructive collapse, by non-destructively, it's called optimized translation of vorticity, converting the transverse EMF into the longitudinal component at that point, the center point, which is what gravity waves are made of. Clearly, Bearden proved it. So what happens is the squirt gun works. And the squirt gun is propelling you into the longitudinal array, what you would call the dream spell, which is quite literally the only physics of lucid dreaming and the only physicsofsoul.com of how you can take memory through death, which is inhabiting the bigger array. So the array starts in the synapses of the brain, and that's an array. You inhabit an array now, and that's a centripetal liquid crystal vortex. And when that vortex is massively centripetal, you can inhabit a much larger array. But for birth, death, or bliss, or this moment, it is suggested that you occupy the place of leverage, which would be where the magnetic lines cross, where the sacred space, where the stone circle, and not metal buildings, electrosmog, ugly city. No, the convergence can't happen. You don't get leverage on tornadoes there.
So in the moment, go ahead, Rubén.
No, go ahead. So basically, you're also kind of recommending people to go into nature during that day so that you can tap into that bliss and that force field.
Luke Skywalker went deep into nature, and then he raised the Jedi. The Jedi is the name for that pillar of longitudinal projectivity related to implosion. Yes.
Get into nature. So we've been playing around with the acronym GET, which interestingly enough, I found out in my research, it's like an old English nickname for a stupid person. Just total aside, that a GET is apparently a nickname for a stupid person. However, we've rebranded the GET to being the golden intersection of timelines. Now we find that alongside your fractal gut, or GUT. Get into your gut, like literally get into that solar center, anchor yourself. Now, speaking of the heart, though, as we talk about the collapse, and it seems, in the collapse and that energy, when people speak of being in the heart, is it more than just an allegory and a poetic expression? Is it actually a physiological orientation of getting into the heart? You mentioned that anger is obviously going to be incompatible with the ability to collapse.
That's
so
right. Literally. Yes.
The more we can seek your bliss, guidance
Yes.
would be also get into your heart, I'm assuming.
Yes. But in other words, we've taught for years the physics of compassion is if you electrically map the electrical source of the heart's voltage, it's an implosive, actually, it's implosive sequence of concentric implosive toroids that makes the heart. The physics of compassion is the embedding. It's literally the heart turning inside out recursively successfully. I would turn myself inside out for you, darling. and that implosion we call compassion is literally, if you ever watched a shaman steering a tornado and he said, I ate the chucha of that, it means I consumed the anger, which means I turned it into constructive compression. In other words, the tornado fell in love with the shaman because the shaman felt its pain better than it felt its own pain. And so that you watch the bioplasmic streamers of the shaman's belly embed into the tornado's vortex and become the centripetal force, which then steers the tornado. And that tornado will go out of its way to destroy a metal trailer park appropriately because that feels electrically, that is pain. But that tornado will never destroy a sacred circle because electrically that feels the tornado like joy, actually. So the steering the tornado has very specific meaning there, and critically, unless we steer our tornadoes, we're toast.
So to produce a metal, you obviously have to do some distortion to an otherwise organic source, right? To produce a metal as an outcome. Would there be some, like, I'm just imagining if what you're saying, the toroid or that tornado would avoid or it would consume or crush or destroy an artificial faux metal construct.
Right. The physics is actually, if you ever interviewed Maria Zupa of the Theosophical, they were painting Leadbeater Besant's Anu, the subatomic particles, and they realized some of the Anu are joyous and impish, and we know that 3 Anu per quark. This was the earliest subatomic accurate physics. But anyway, then they did the paintings. Why were some of them happy and weren't happy? Guess which ones weren't happy? The ones inside aluminum. Why? Aluminum, opposite to dielectric, is the opposite of charge distribution efficiency. So literally, the subatomic particles inside aluminum are isolated from the flow. The only definition of hell, actually. And if you look at the health statistics of employees in aluminum foil factories and the number of tragedies around aluminum foil factories, they're catastrophic because every single atom in those aluminums, in that aluminum, is literally in pain. And if you ever picked up something aluminum, held it in your hand, you can feel the pain, which is simply isolation from charge distribution efficiency, called dielectric constant, which happens to define biologic architecture and therefore defines the concept of heaven.
Wow, my brain is just, all right. So I want to jump around a little bit. Agnihotra. I practice Agnihotra. We do it here in Los Angeles. I was initiated back in the Baltimore, D.C. community many, many years ago by a direct descendant of, by Sri Vasant, who came from India to the Baltimore community specifically and, trained a bunch of folks in the 60s from the Black community there in Agnihotra specifically as an application to all the distortion. So anyway, I was initiated by people of that lineage and that practice. But as you mentioned that now, it's exciting because it does then suggest that on the golden intersection of timelines dates, October 14th, 15th, which I'm planning to do, in fact, we're considering being in nature in Mount Shasta, for example, and doing the Agnihotra from there as an exercise of just connection with this golden moment, it seems, right? Crossing this threshold. So how does that tornado, that energetic tornado, act on copper? I'm just curious. We mentioned the metals, but aluminum in particular.
The dielectric constant. Classically, the Agnihotra invert pyramid was either copper or gold, which is improving dielectric. If you have gold handy, but maybe you don't, so copper
will do.
That's a short summary. And if you realize the role of metals in living architecture, it's similar. But the invert pyramid is a capacitive conjugator. And actually, I'm suggesting not only would you need to find accurately sunrise sunset time, but you need to find accurately the magnetic line cross point
Ooh.
to increase that leverage. Absolutely. So
Where would that be in Shasta? How would I identify that in Shasta, for
actually,
example?
basic dowsing skills are essential because
Okay.
this is the physics of Mother Earth's blood.
There we
It
go.
literally is. And the more Kundalini you have, the better dowser you are for that
That's
reason.
right. Okay.
So, but this
because it
this
moves
is
through you too. It's her Kundalini. It's your Kundalini. There can't be much
exactly,
difference. Oh wow.
exactly.
Okay.
That's the dream spells physics.
Right. Wow.
So that increases the centripetal force and therefore your leverage on the array. And therefore, then what you visualize at that moment has more literally creative physics because it's more implosive.
Yeah. So obviously there's a lot of interference generally in the 3D right now, preventing people perhaps from tapping into that dreamscape, that field of coherence that they in the imaginal realm could catalyze, perhaps. There's a lot getting in there in the mix right now, messing and distracting us largely. With that in mind, how best to navigate this? I mean, obviously making it conscious is one level, but then just what other advice do you have for those of us out here now awakening in the dream, so to speak, realizing that things have in some cases been manipulated, not just here on this level, but also other levels? What's our protection in this? What's our avenue forward?
I mean, finding out that most of the parasites behind religion on Earth are ET, astral black goo, messy, isn't even helpful unless you can do something about it.
Correct.
Actually doing something about it, what lies behind that is exactly what you just said. Awakening in the dream spell here has a very, very specific electrical meaning. And I'm not advertising gadgets here, but our PhiRay.com, for example, is a plasma that's famous for triggering lucid dreaming and astral coherence. I'm not saying you need a gadget, but you do need the physics. The physics is if you engage in implosive compression and your aura gets centripetal, the first thing that happens is you wake up in the dream and you wake up in the astral. And it's very useful to know what that physics means. First of all, it's the only definition of having a soul, by the way, if you'd like to take memory through death, just for starters, physicsofsoul.com. So when you get centripetal in your aura, magnetic lines cross, your Agnihotra's working, you're having bliss, you got golden ratio in your brain waves, you did the golden ratio breath, 1,000 ways to do it, learning how to attract charge is yoga. So you got centripetal, and what happened is your aura now is implosively sorting and converting efficiently the transverse EMF into the squirt gun out the nose of that nozzle, which is Planck, into coherent longitudinal interferometry, sometimes called the Ba from the Ka, or the rainbow light body, or the Kesjan body, which is simply the name for the physics of soul radiating into the coherent longitudinal array. Then you can begin to see where the problems are and do something about it. Until then, you're actually kind of blind. What's kind of cool here is plasma devices like Therify PhiRay trigger a kind of clairvoyance where you see the array, and we know, and there's lots of, by the way, if you can inhabit nature and sacred sites, you don't need gadgets. I'm not advertising gadgets. I'm describing physics here. That when your aura gets centripetal, the reason you become clairvoyant, you can see through people's bodies and all these, is because you're perceiving the longitudinal array because you're embedded in it. So the ability to emit coherent longitudinal Ba from the Ka, Kesjan rainbow light body is the beginning of getting leverage on the array, and that's what's called coherence in the astral. And that's where the parasites are messing with us. Hello. That's Jake Astral.
Yeah. Shout out to Jake. Again, I've really appreciated what you guys are doing and just making conscious to us out here. So powerful. Wow.
Yeah, and we're developing luciddreamteam.com. Now there's a core group meeting, and check out, there's a contact there at luciddreamteam.com. I'm not saying you need our Lucid Dream Team. Earth desperately needs Lucid Dream Teams, or we ain't going to have an immune system to astral parasites. That's clear. And whether it's our Lucid Dream Team doesn't matter. But God, let's get some Lucid Dream Teams together, or else.
And this gets into like the astral hygiene I think you speak of, and knowing and being able to take account and see, as you said, if you're not, you're operating through blind spots. Let's talk a little bit Then I want to give a shout out to Vicky Cunningham, Ken177, who's the woman responsible for connecting us. As
Vicky's an old friend from Australia.
I
Valerie
know.
loves her.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. She mentioned Valerie
Memories.
and just brought the connection together, because I did put a sort of Hail Mary out there on our last episode saying, hey, if anybody can connect us with Dan Winter, we would love that. So it's just, and so thank you. And I know we had connection previously with the Facebook thread, and you shared the goldenmean.info/coincidence article.
Yes.
Put that out for folks. We'll have all the links in the show notes as well as during the live chat for this. So shout out to her, and mentioning Australia, mentioning Dr. Arguelles's work in Australia and presencing even this, let's just say, the context for what has become known as the 13 moon calendar. Along with that tool, a couple things here. One with the tool is the idea of the days being termed radial plasmas. So they're not called Monday through Sunday, for example. They're called Dali, Celi, Gamma, Kali, Alpha, Limi, Cilio. Those are the terminologies Dr. Arguelles attributed to the days. But calling them radial plasmas, and I know you speak of the plasma work in your work. Plasma factors into it in a myriad ways. What does that relate, though, to us? I had this thought yesterday, for example, of, maybe a recollection or a memory, like we are light beings, regardless of the skin suit I've taken on, regardless of these other, things that have compiled into my physical form. Part of me feels related to the plasma of the sun. I feel a correlation with this.
That's beautiful.
We're light beings on some level. Maybe it's creative level in my mind, but I feel we have a relation. I feel it shows up then in the array of 7 days characterized as radial plasmas. I feel it in the relationship of, as we know, of our chakras, thanks in large part for the past 100 years. And, you mentioned Theosophical Society and other ways we've become aware of these terms in our modern language now. We don't really think much about them beyond that, but it seems that all of these things work together. So as we're encountering this, I'm just curious, how does your perspective on plasmic energy, plasma, anything relate to this?
Well, conventional physics is clear. Plasma is 99.999% of the universe. And what they mean is simply plasma is named for the superfluid of compressible charge, which is, you can't name anything because that's the name for everything. So plasma is a cloud of charge. Now, classically, it takes heat to keep charge floating in a cloud, except if you have some implosion source, then you can make cold plasma, which is medically famous for negentropy. And that's what all our plasma devices are. But the other side of this is, I knew in Australia at Adelaide in the Bight, who did all the work on the plasma alphabets seen by the Aboriginal shaman and believed he could read every cave wall painting on the planet, and did that work then with Los Alamos Plasma Research Institute. These were friends. And he realized that every ancient cave wall painting by a shaman was basically a plasma alphabet. And that living plasma, the sequencing of living plasma symmetries is our name for the origin of beings. And so the plasma language obviously is behind, and I've done many equations on this, it's behind the physics of Hebrew, that if you take plasma donut and self-organize the angles of the golden spiral, self-organizing on the 7 color, the tetrahedral symmetry of those sequence of angles is the origin of Hebrew, goldenmean.info/DNA ring, and the origin of Sanskrit. So sacred alphabets are only a name for symmetry nests of plasma, obviously. So calling those days plasma radii is probably useful. I would say we named our days Sunday, Moon Day, names our days by the planets because our relationship to the planets establishes our ability to embed. And your feeling intuitively related to the sun is absolutely gorgeous and very useful, because first of all, every ancient religion was a sun god religion for a very simple reason. It's the most intelligent plasma in our neighborhood. And it also happens to be the only way actually in and out of here. Like if your ET arrived through the heart of the sun, they're probably interesting. If they arrived in a heavy metal craft, they're not interesting actually. And so every shaman knows what it's like to see through the heart of the sun, like an eyeball. It's called the Anu. 7 spins inside, 5 spins outside, which is actually 7 spins of the tetracube, and 5 spins of dodecikosa, which is platonic charge collapse. And that same Anu was seen at the heart of the human, at 7 spins of the heart muscle, and the heart of hydrogen, the Anu, because that is platonic charge collapse at work. So the heart of the sun is a cool, inviting eyeball, specifically because of the imploding plasma there. And it's the only actually leverage Stargate in and out of here. And we did shamanic journeys through the heart of the sun for years, and it's super, super powerful. And I took a back step on that because people were getting dizzy and weren't ready.
Yeah, it goes to what you were saying about being able to hold the charge, because it seems when you're exposing yourself to the source of all life so vulnerably, you know, without preparation or having that frequency match, it could be a little daunting. Wow. So we definitely feel the sun is definitely the orchestrator, as it's always been. But similar to what you indicated, if the Andromedans did help prop up a moon to stabilize the planet, and I've heard these stories related also because at some point in our storied past as a planet, the planet was twice this size. It perhaps got smacked by another object much larger. It split the planet. This is according to some sources, like Sumerian, you know, sources of the story, according to them. And then from that, it's interesting you mentioned that you would have those under Enki from those tablets or stories that stayed here on Earth, perhaps embedding in nature, where you had those, you know, I don't know, maybe those in the skies and in Leal, and however they were deciding to leave and go, or I don't know. It just seems there's, as you indicated, there was some reflection of those being in bliss and joy or agreement, we might say, and then those being not in agreement. Quite the opposite. It depicted according to their stories. It brings that up for me just in the telling of what you're sharing.
Well, we think it's really quite clear that the Lesser Dryad Great Flood was the waters of Tiamat, and we also got doused in her black goo carbon at that point too. Black goo can be beautiful, but the black goo of a broken planet is angry.
Oil?
But anyway,
is goo related to oil? I mean, when we see black goo,
it's implosive conjugate nanocarbon related to fullerenes, and in natural compressors inside the Earth, the black goo and the water is beautifully self-aware. However, we get some echo. What came from Tiamat at that point was the Federation led by the Andromedans decided the Atlantis was the bad guys, the reptilians, both Enki and Lil. And Lil, at that point, the Atlantean civilization was regarded as evil. Enki and Thoth had beautiful designs, but big ugly brother Draco and Lil Yahweh was in control, and they wanted him out of there. And so that's how the Lesser Dryad happened. And then the Andromedans realized that war came to a stalemate, but to prevent the solar system from falling apart, they urgently dragged in their hollow metal artificial planetoid moon, which documented did not exist before about that 12,000 years ago.
So as all things are recursive, it seems, and recurrent, here we find ourselves now on the third dimensional planetary level with, again, interferences that may be astral informed, right? That may be orchestrated, but also seem to be taking on a very physical expression too. What can we do just in holding the balance here? Because obviously people are being, I think, cued to respond or react, or how do you perceive, you know, given the nature of things and the behavior of things, what is advice on how we meet this golden intersection moment, but also just generally, like how we're, you know, invited to even meet the moment generally? You know, I know you see the news, we all see the news, we are a single planetary entity, we all feel it too. So How do we navigate these next
I
few
mean,
months or years, even just given the nature of what we're seeing unfolding?
the big picture is a bit messy. The Earth has been a farm for a plasma-hungry parasite for many thousands of years, and that parasite is directly behind the structure of most of Western religions. Unfortunately, both the Jews and the Muslim, and indirectly the Roman Catholic, what they did to the Christian. So most of religions on the planet is literally a conveyor belt into the mouth of a hungry ghost. I'm sorry, but it's messy, but true.
Yeah.
And the moment that we're no longer food for that hungry parasite is the moment when we realize we're not a victim. The moment you claim your sovereignty, says, I can have bliss anyway. That's the moment when suddenly you are steering the tornado. So actually, I mean, it sounds kind of weird. Well, you know, it's like who was it? The hero in Lord of the Ring, Frodo. The whole universe is going to fall apart if I don't do the right thing in my next move. So what did he do? He got playful. In other words, you can follow your bliss precisely because everything's a mess, because you could actually implode your aura and start to steer bigger tornadoes.
It's interesting, very interesting. You know, Mikuak Rai is in some ways characterized as being in 104,000 year samadhi. So to me, that would suggest a being, a consciousness steering a tornado, as you say, at such a rate or duration. I mean, 104,000 years is a long span as far as time is concerned, I would guess. But it just seems to me what you're speaking of about the fact that we do have that capacity. We're not powerless. We have the capacity to actually steer our respective tornado, or to, you know, be centripetal in our nature, you know, and to be able to, I don't know, navigate that.
You know, there's a lot of people who believe that Thoth, Hermes, Enki, Viracocha, Quetzalcoatl, Ningishit, a lot of names, is back, and specifically back, if you listen to JP, the king of the ant people in the ark under Florida turns out to be same guy. And also, you know, he was the only teacher of the whole Templar legend, by the way. Same guy, who's the origin of the line of David and the line of the Grail. Same guy. Blood of Tut, blood of Jesus. Same guy. And so what's he up to now? Well, it turns out that Dahlia seems to be in the middle of reliving the deaths of both Jesus and Tut, because if we can relive that and come back through that pain, and guess who caused that pain? This giant interstellar parasite behind Earth's religion. Literally, when Akhenaten swallowed the Kool-Aid and decided, oh, okay, he would advertise the Aten, which is a black sun, black goo parasite, which was the monarch behind all Earth's Western religions. What happened is then his wife, Nefertiti, who was actually a shapeshifter, melon-headed gray, set about murdering Tutankhamun viciously. And this is the origin of Western religions. It ain't pretty, no. but once you see that history is a nightmare that you can wake up from, if you have enough bliss to relive the pain, and that's the pain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot. But I want to just acknowledge the fact that these entities have created so much pain, and they have used so much strategies to get out of phase, to really mess with our biology so that we cannot phase conjugate into that bliss. So they put like these little obstacles on that process so that we go into anger, so we create actually the opposite physics for that bliss. But you mentioned in your talk about the Mayan time vindicated, you speak about the spiral calendar. This is similar of the concept that we have been really exploring, because what we did at the Harmonic Factor is just take all the science and all the mathematics that Jose left and kind of apply the golden ratio measurement to those cycles, considering that all Mayan time is the fractal is 13, which is the 7th stage of the Fibonacci progression. So what we kind of resonated with everything that you shared in that video, in this, again, this comparison of day out of time at that still point where all these waves collapse, it brings to mind the fact that we can also consider the fact that all that history, ancient history from Enki and Enlil and Akhenaten and all of that can be basically transmute or phase conjugate in a way that we can create bliss out of the mess that we are in.
That's a beautiful thought, and it's another way of saying history is a nightmare you can wake up from if you have a source of bliss. It reminds me, one more thing I would say about your physics of time questions. We can argue all day about whether you start with Planck or whether you start with the Mayan day, but I would remind us all that this is measurable. So that, for example, when we went to Sam's Bosnian pyramid, where 1 million people a year show up and get rejuvenation, and we measured the power spectra of the frequencies in that pyramid, which is all at pyramidwirelesspower.com, which turns out obviously to be the Schumann cascade. We even figured out why there's 28 kilohertz on the roof. I mean, we know exactly. But the thing is, the low frequencies in those measurements are exactly the long wave you're talking about. So when you measure, for example, when Callahan measured the Schumann harmonics in a tree and could predict in advance which tree was going to live or die if it got Schumann radio, well, if you take the lower frequencies there, you got the Mayan calendar. Do you see what I'm saying? So when charge is compressing constructively, the frequency signature is the absolute physics of the answer. Have you described it correctly? This is measurable.
Yeah, because what we found out by mapping the coordinates for this date is that on the ancient Mayan count, this day will correspond to the day for Ahau, that happens to be day 160 out of 260, which is precisely at the golden ratio or the golden intersection of that 260 array. So that brings us back to the same date that marked the start of that graphic that you were sharing with us, and that we will probably share it here on top of the screen so that people can have that. It was Josh Stray, the one.
Josh Stray, yes, I knew him well. Yes.
But that was like not the physics approach, because it has some. But it's a way to go back to that 0 point in time, right? Which
it was like trying to find. I don't think he was successful in finding the 0 point, but he had the idea of how to try to find the 0 point. It was a good start. Actually, now I will share with you the tables from plankfire.com. We have Excel spreadsheets with very accurate numbers on these things, and let's compare notes. But we remind us that we can work out the theory, but then we can actually do the measurements to see if the low frequencies of the capacitance of the sacred trees gets the long wave. That's also what Jose said correctly. Ride the long wave, Uncle Joe. What he meant was embedded in the longest wave of the galaxy. And by the way, Jose I think he got one more thing almost right. He talked about the Syrian Midway Station. And now that our friend Walter Cruttenden, LostStar.com, has correctly, because the physics had the precession all wrong. It's not 26,000. They're wrong. It's 24,000 about 300. And my equation, by the way, predicted, and he agreed, LostStar.com. But in the process, he found the sun around which our sun is rotating, Sirius B. It's very heavy, and the Dogon knew. Hello, Galactic Station, Sirius B. Do you get it? Nice. The solar rising of Sirius. Yeah.
You mentioned also something interesting, which is the connection with these other planets, and I was reading this morning that this new interstellar object, it's approaching that asteroid belt, and that we will have, before approaching Mars, right for the start. I think closest approach to Mars is October 1st or 2nd. But how do you perceive this interstellar object being part of a larger scheme of things, knowing everything you know from ancient history to the physics of what an interstellar object creates within the orbits of the solar systems? What do you perceive that this could bring?
Well, it's the old story. The orbital dynamics of the moon prove it was put there. The orbital dynamics of Hale-Bopp proved it was put there. The orbital dynamics of what's it called, Atlas 1 or something, prove that it's intentional. Is this the good guys or the bad guys? Well, a very complicated question. Well, we're told that it's an observer, but its astral track will tell us soon. But we think... Basically, remember, the local Galactic Federation, unfortunately, although with Andromedan influence, is maintaining the quarantine isolation, literally keeps us like a museum, so that they can do human trafficking, which is where they make the big bucks, eating Loosh and souls. That's why the Earth is a farm right now. And the only time we get to not be a farm anymore was when we wake up and learn to steer tornadoes in the astral. Then we ain't no longer a farm until we are. And observers ain't going to make the difference until from within we actually learn this lesson, which is we're going to have to steer the tornado ourselves.
Oof. That's the big cosmic lesson, y'all. We have to take responsibility. Actually, that's really what it comes down to. Like, it's nobody coming to save us, clearly.
No,
and we were
no.
engineered to be here and to, obviously serve these hierarchies somehow. But
the seeds are well planted.
It's a mutiny.
But the seeds are well planted, but we can't be a vaccine for the Orion Wars unless it happens from within.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Well, that's remarkable. I feel like it invites us to tap into then some of the finer material we're formed of, like speaking to that plasmic aspect of ourselves that is of a finer vibration, clearly, than what we've sort of, vibrated to here at this density. And so, getting out of this particular conundrum is definitely a wise thing to do. You mentioned the fact that we're affected by something very highly toxic, and that one of the things we need to get on is just really detoxing. And that's something I know my partner is Shell, part of our Harmonic Factor team, and I have been doing actively for the past few months. And just, shedding, the amount of shedding that's been happening and the release is really phenomenal. Just keeping with simple detoxing, like black walnut, like the basics, black walnut husk, like clove, and tinctures like that to really get at that cellular level. And I've shed 35, 40 pounds. It's amazing. Just even that, getting through that to be clear for what we're, approaching. So I'm just saying, from my own experience, I'm grateful that that's been at least some inspired course, thanks to my partner. It wasn't because of it was at the urging of my partner. So I got to acknowledge and thank her for that. But the benefits are remarkable. And so
beautiful and very, very appropriate. And I would add to that, also detox from continuous immersion in Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, 5G. These things are the opposite of soul. And you're going to need nature to get embedded in Schumann. And it ain't going to happen in electrosmog cities.
Now, the past couple of days, the Schumann has been displaying this like whiteout for like hours and hours and hours. What is that implying? What does that mean?
More harmonic inclusiveness, more compression, more stress. And only if that compression gets fractal will it be negentropic. So if human beings get, bliss alpha to gamma in their brain waves, the physics of Kundalini and bilocation, then they can implode that. But if humans don't get centripetal, the tornado will be unsteered.
As a musician, I'm wondering, what is a frequency then that I might want to emit in things that I might broadcast that could be beneficial to help people move through the density, the smog, all the things we're talking about? Is there a way to leverage, as musicians or artists, sound itself?
Perfectly. We have our Flame and Sound app at flameandmind.com.
Okay.
And that's what we use in all our tech, Phi-Ray and Therify. Basically, what that is you took the Planck and golden ratio cascade, which comes to 7.29 hertz, but then you modify that slightly because when Thoth designed the planet's Schumann, he didn't get it quite right. He ended up at 7.83. And that's the difference between the 50 hertz theoretical and the 53 hertz we measured in every single pyramid. So that whole cascade is well defined. Pyramidwirelesspower.com. There's the cascade, 7.383 and not 7.29 times golden ratio. And you take that cascade upward, and that is the most psychokinetic on this planet, because the charge collapse on this planet, although it approximates at phase conjugate pump wave, is tuned more accurately at Schumann at 7.83 than theoretical 7.29. So that cascade is well defined, and that is absolutely the most psychokinetic healing negentropic frequency series on the planet. It's very clear. Pyramidwirelesspower.com.
If you were to translate that to a musical tone or note, what would that be, say, on this, on a modern keyboard?
7.83 cascades, for example, to 50 hertz, the most commonly mentioned healing frequency in all the cancer literature. Countries that have 50 hertz can make carbon nano. Countries that have 60 hertz cannot make carbon nano. Sorry, Tesla. He didn't know what wireless power was. So you take that cascade, 7.83 cascades to 50, etc., and it's very musical, and it's very psychokinetic, and it is the world's most powerful bliss-inducing, bliss binaural audio, which is the essence of what's at Flame and Sound, which is at flameandmind.com, our Flame and Sound app.
Wonderful. Flame and Sound app. I'm going to check that out for sure.
It's iOS, all at flameandmind.com. And the app with Flame and Mind with the brainwaves is like $200, but the app with just the sound is like $20. It's powerful.
Beautiful.
Agreed to be the world's most powerful bliss-inducing bliss binaural, which is behind all our plasma tech.
Wow, that's amazing. And it sounds like it's what we need now. We obviously have to leverage these emergent technologies. Thanks to you and your groundbreaking work that we have these now. Thank you very much to you and your team for manifesting this at a time when we need these things.
Yeah, people need to implode. People need to learn how to implode, because that's what leverage for sure.
Yeah, and I guess it's better that than they, implode as a result of a toxic internal fire, because that's also another possibility if people are doing their
in the spiritual literature, it's called the flame that does not consume. It's a cold blue flame, which means if it's imploding non-destructively, it spontaneously gets colder as our plasma does. The definition of negentropy.
Wow. Wow. Rubén, please.
Yeah, I thoughts coming to mind while we have the conversation. So there are basically different ways to phase into this cascading bliss, right? And one would be music tone to the cascading frequency that will kind of create that resonance. And while you were both speaking about that, I was thinking about these ratios that that are measured within the 260-day cycle, and going back to the day of the golden intersection is the day 4 Ahau. So I noticed a special coincidence with the graphic of the Phi-Ray that you have on your website. But I don't know if you can put the slide, or we can put it later on top of this one. But it's the one, probably the 6th or 7th slide, in which we can see that this cone, the tip of the cone.
Oh yes, Caduceus-like. Yes.
Caduceus, yeah. This is basically the scale that you are measuring here, which is all connected also to the proportions of the golden ratio is it picks also the same numbers on the Solkin, which is the 260-day count. This is what we are seeing at the bottom is only the scale of the day called sun, which is the last row of the 260-day matrix. And day 100, which is the fifth column, will be the first 5 point. Kin 160 will be the second 5 point, and Kin 260 will be the third 5 point when we complete 13 columns. So basically, the phi on that count of 260 days will be always on day 100 of 260, on 160 of 260, and on day 260 when we complete 13 of those. And these are the approximations of the ratios or the tips of those cones that we see above. So it's basically there is an alignment that day of the energy of this day for a how happening, which is the beginning of the long count, the end of the long count, and it taps into these markers because we have the fractal approximation, of course, of
and it creates a still point. Exactly. And it's beautiful. I love the way you've made that analog. And I would make another little thought here is this can be done with color. This can be done with infrared. I take an example. The exact only two frequency narrow peaks of color which make photosynthesis in the purple and the orange are exactly golden ratio times Planck. So you take exactly the only two frequencies of fractalfield.com/fractal photosynthesis, and you make the colors which do exactly this, create implosion bliss. Or you can take your infrared sauna and retune it, and you can do exactly this. You can take the geometry of the paramagnetic stones in your yard and lie them out in a spiral and do exactly this. Anything that creates that implosive compression, and you do all those things at once, your breath, your heart, you made a magnetic map of your bed and your house and your village, and you rearranged them all to look like a rose.
Like feng shui, like quantum feng shui, something like that.
And I remind you, it's just I've told this story many times, but the city of Prague, the original magnetic map is literally a rose. And the reason is because it's a caldera of a meteorite, and the moldavite on the street is the physics of alchemy. It is the philosopher's stone. And when I was in Prague, I lucid dreamed more, and I actually had inner voices. I spoke to Valerie's ancestors, believe it or not. She can confirm. I had a little clairvoyance. I'm not disciplined, but I had fun. But anyway, the point is that when you do rearrange the magnetic map of your bed and your house and your village to look like a rose, it does work.
Yeah, that's true.
High science there. Deep and high. Wonderful. Wow.
Physical hygiene, mental hygiene, emotional hygiene.
Astral hygiene.
And in the Steiner schools, when they taught the kids to first visualize a rose and then draw a rose, the test in the Steiner school was, did the room at that point fill with the smell of roses? And if it did, and we know the physics, because in the flowering brain, the infrared component, I've seen hummingbirds smash into the window, smelling the bliss of the lady having bliss in a sealed house, because the infrared smell went through the window, which is the physics of olfaction, if you understood Callahan. So suddenly the flowering brain making a rose makes more sense.
Wow. Yeah, that's remarkable. Shambhala, the word Shambhala meaning scent of Allah, like that's actually where that comes from. But maybe there is a corollary there with the fragrance that, issues from one in bliss, that expression of bliss. It has a olfactory expression.
It's the nectar of bliss that drips on the back of the tongue. Well, actually, the infrared component of that is the flowering brain, and that's the L of Allah. The L is the point of the phase shift. The Elohim, which is the one who can make longitudinal from transverse.
Wow. This, we could go on, and I know you do go on, and I love it. I tap in with a lot of what you have put out there. We're so grateful for you and your team and love and respect to Valerie as well, for being part of bridging us together with you for this conversation, and hopefully not the last one. I mean, obviously we're approaching this fantastic golden moment, which we invite you as well from France, the south of France, to observe with us worldwide. People around the world are really being invited to make this something they're aware of, at least be conscious of it. If that's the only 2 days of the entire year you choose to go hug a tree, get into nature, do something good for your soul, we certainly encourage people to tap in those days.
I noticed that part of your team is going to hold an event in San Francisco around those dates.
Well, I was going to suggest that our luciddreamteam.com leader, Dahlia, who actually has the memory of Thoth, I'd like to suggest to her to connect with you guys. And also, we have found that by igniting our plasma devices, Plasma Therify, Plasma Fire, Fire in synchrony, because lots of people get better lucid dreaming and creates leverage. So we should talk more about that ignition. Our upcoming main event is our 5th International South France Conference, October 9 to 14. And yours is October 5th.
Well, we're October 14th and 15th, so you're right there on the golden intersection of timelines. You're going to be in it.
Yeah.
Our October 14th, it's a climax event of our big conference. So we're just going to have to synchronize with you guys. That's like fun.
Palenque, Mount Shasta, all around the world. I mean, people everywhere. Just want to raise the vibration with everybody and let them know about this golden opportunity.
So funny because I read SF. I read SF and I thought it was San Francisco, but it's southern France.
It's southern France, yes.
SF.
We're in Grail country, the pyramids. We're nested in the pyramids here.
Yeah,
and that's the climax moment of our event, the 14th.
Wow.
I will tell Dahlia, and we will synchronize. What a fun thing.
Amazing.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday, and I said, well, this is very beautiful that we are having this conversation today, and I realized yesterday that you are holding an event those days.
What I'm going to have to do is I'll have to play this part of this video to the conference.
Absolutely. Sure thing. Yeah.
Cool.
And anyways, we're going to definitely put all the links out there for everybody tapping in, tuning in, to please visit your websites, get this information, learn about the new technology. I definitely want to look into that as well, as I've been on this detox thing, like I'm mentioning, and now it's time to all right, let's figure out how to work this vessel. Let's do something with it, But let's tame the dragon, as some say, or let's, steer that tornado.
Exactly.
That's what time it is. Wow, we really give thanks for that clarity. Anything you'd like to say? I'd love to ask you just anything you'd love to say, and just to the collective right now. You as a soul, as a unique individual, what's your transmission to the collective right now?
Well, what I was going to say is we Scorpios don't apologize for sting. We enjoy it. But actually, what is meant by sting is where the waves implode. And I have to say, a certain gratitude for 30 years of pretty intense Kundalini experiences. And having survived that, I mean, there are stresses on your body, but having survived that, I experienced some of this for better, for worse. And, like I say, I can teach the physics of clairvoyance. I can't do it that good. I can teach the physics of bliss. I can make 5 harmonics in golden ratio anytime in my EEG. But does that mean I have pure intention? Well, I'm working on it. Actually,
we all are.
It is you guys. Actually, I have to say gratefully, look, to understand it is one thing, but to make it shareable is another. And the shareable wave is actually what fractality is all about. And you guys are perhaps doing a better job of making it shareable than I am. So I'm grateful to you.
Well, we're grateful for a chance to share any of your work that we can in a shareable way, as however we can, and certainly just simply share your links and everything we can. So thank you.
The climax of the Sufi story was, I am here because of you, and you are here because of me.
Yes.
And Lakesh.
Absolutely correct.
Perfect on that one. We love that, and we genuinely love you as well, Dan. Ken 109. You're doing it great, and the air of this broadcast happens to be a red moon day, the resonant moon. So you are in good company with you and your overtone moon galactic signature.
Thank
That,
you.
yeah, absolutely. We really do appreciate love you. Thank you for your time and your energy today, and we look forward to more.
And a
Yes.
blessing. I'm available. Thank you.
Aho. Thank you.
Me too.
Okay.
Me too.
Mutually so.
Bye, everybody.
In Lakesh. Okay. Brother Rubén.
Wow, I just watching it again. I was just feeling my entire body and consciousness expand. And this has been the purpose of this podcast, to expand our view, expand our consciousness.
That's right.
And then we can, like, he can go into so many areas of human history, physics, electronics, the biofeedback of the sun and the planet. So it's really a very enriching conversation, and we still have a lot to learn from him.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
but I think he gave us a lot of clues, and I will highlight this connection with nature, to really detoxing our field by going into nature and recharging, so that we are able to really become those vessels for the alchemy to take place. So that's a kind of a thought for anyone watching this, wanting to do something during those days. Especially nature is such a good call, because it's in the vibration that physics operate.
Mm, mm.
He
Yeah.
said it very clear that the cities are not resonant with this.
Yeah. That is true. So it's a good time to go somewhere sacred, get your feet on the earth, connect. And yeah, as we have a lot of great activity in the chat, people are talking about everything is electrically centripetal, and just, I mean, but those are indicators of what we want to achieve individually as we collapse, as is said. That, yeah, it's beautiful. And I invite people to listen back to what they heard, because obviously there are some terminologies maybe you're familiar with, maybe you're not familiar with. When you hear them a few times, it really does begin to click. And then
Yeah.
you begin to appreciate just the mechanics of what's being described. It's really, really remarkable. And
Yeah, just getting familiar with these terms helps a lot to, as he shared at the end, which we feel very honored with those comments at the end,
yeah,
that we are doing a good job in making it shareable, because that is one of the most important, or the key qualities of this harmonic compression or harmonic cascading of waves. And it's all part of we are at the merging of two worlds. Of course, he's coming from the physics perspective, and we are doing our best to apply the concepts, these advanced concepts that he's sharing, with our view of applying it to larger cycles of time. And I think that exploration in itself is very rewarding, and it's a way for us also to learn new things, just by listening to him, and knowing that he's going to be connected on October 14 from southern France. As I think that's a beautiful confirmation that we are entrained in time, and that we are just making it conscious now. So it's a beautiful synchronicity to close these 52 episodes with him giving us such a wide spectrum of wisdom and knowledge to learn from, as preparation for the golden intercession.
Completely. Completely. Perfect reflection of our intention, I would say, as well. Just having this completion cycle of 52 episodes. So deep, deep gratitude to Dan Winter for making himself available to us, and we look forward to future conversations with him beyond this as well, knowing that there is certainly purpose for that. And we want to encourage people wherever you are, as Dan will be in southern France. As you know, many will be in Palenque. Wherever you are around the world, take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah.
It is a once ever event. So, not to, not to miss that, really.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
one not to miss.
yeah. Wherever you are, pay special attention those days to your thoughts, to your energy.
Hmm.
I love the fact that we are still in the wasteful of the dreamer, which is this archetype, and we were speaking about this aboriginal dream and how the rainbow serpent is really this plasma, this coherent plasma stream that is squirted out of this 0 point. And how we can really, in our own way, dream the new dream,
Yeah.
dream the highest dream, and of course this is being today in that heart, that this the seventh day of the cycle of the dreamer. To dream from the heart is the call for that day, just to really allow ourselves to connect with the most sacred, most intimate inspiration that we hold in our hearts, and make art from there, from that point. And we have like the blank canvas is those 2 days, and the call is to celebrate time as art, wherever you are, in group or by yourself, in the company of nature, or just in the intimacy of your home. This is like a special window to really connect telepathically and be part of that collective dream. All these lucid dreamers around the world creating like a new dream. That was the vision coming to mind, knowing that he's going to hold a lucid dreaming event that will climax on that day. So I was holding that vision of really what is the highest dream that we can dream of.
I love that. And it sounds like it's their fifth gathering. Didn't he say that?
Yeah, fifth.
Fifth. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Everything is spiraling up and in, it seems. Yeah. Beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, and we had a few more slides prepared for tonight, but I think people absorb quite a lot of information, and he speaks really fast.
No, yeah, I think it covered everything quite well, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll certainly leave this image here, but yeah, we'll just go ahead and shift into what's next and close everything in a beautiful way. But thank you all for staying tuned and staying the course with us. So today we mark 15, almost 14 days, just 2 heptad to the golden intersection of timelines. So grateful to make that conscious. And again, just staying connected here with all of you, tracking this upcoming portal, this beautiful, beautiful threshold to step into, to truly step into. And so we want to just make that conscious. And of course, invite everybody to get this tool at the harmonicfactor.com website. If you don't already have it, we certainly encourage you to download this tool just to track. And this is a special edition version of it as well. You can see that beautiful seal on the cover, just to commemorate the golden intersection of timelines. And so here we are now, just days to the marker. It's remarkable. You just to feel how we were just 22 days last episode. Now here we are, 15, coming closer and closer. So
Yes, and of course things are shifting really fast, and we keep adjusting to what is happening. But having your own guide, your own almanac, and tracking the day by day, it really helps to comprehend at a deeper level what is happening, and how these pulses, which are based in waves that are, as we mentioned before, kind of collapsing in golden ratio resonance. It's one of the ways that we can really, or one of the tools that we can use to create that bliss state, to enter that bliss state. We mentioned music during the interview. He mentioned also the importance of color and nature. So tracking these cycles is another way. It's another, I see it as another tool within everything that we have today, all these new comprehension of the science, this emerging science of bliss and lucid dreaming and everything else in between, that is also coordinated by the golden ratio, like he mentioned. So we encourage everyone to get your almanac, also to leave a small donation for your download. That will help us continue doing this work. So important right now.
And of course, we're really honored to have this beautiful grounding of the moment in a place as sacred as Palenque, and knowing that we're going to be connecting around the world in a real beautiful tapestry of heart connection, heart mind coherence. That's really the goal. Just knowing that we're grounding it as well with Palenque and heart and mind is very, very precious to this entire intention. And so we're grateful to know that several of our relatives will be there for Return to Origin in that sacred land of La Camha, that place of those holy waters, while people are invited to go to other sacred waters wherever they may be, wherever you find yourself in the world. But just know that we're connecting heart, mind, and noosphere all together at once, really, in this moment. So a beautiful, beautiful thing. And we'll look forward to learning and sharing after the events, and just, providing some kind of feedback and reports for people, just to appreciate the ongoing process. Because for us, this is also entering us through that portal into a whole new cycle of service. And this transformative work, it continues. And I think it's going to continue in new and unique ways as well. So, and we have yet to see even how that's going to completely manifest. And that's part of the excitement, in a sense, because there is much to do. So,
yeah, and the invitation for those who are feeling the call right now, there is still space at Villa Mercedes. We're going to be a beautiful group. It's not important the quantity, but really the quality, and that you feel that your heart is really bringing you there, and that the land is calling you, because we are really coming to learn from the land. Let's remember that it is in Palenque where this date in the future is recorded in stone. That's why we wanted to honor that, because that is what really gives the golden intersection that bridge to the future. We can only we are not only connecting to the origin of time at the ancient beginning of the long count on four how, but also we are connecting with the future, to the end of that cycle and the beginning of a new one, a new spiral. And and to honor that, we will be really connecting with the guardians of the land and the land. So this is a short timeline of the events that we are going to hold, but I really recommend people to get the full program and scan the QR code on screen. If you are still feeling the call, or if you were in doubt and you want to really know what are the activities that we are going to hold, well, scan the code and you will get the access to the full program. We may even make the full program available soon for people to be able to tap into the work that we are doing and the intention that we are holding for those days, because at the end we decided to do it from October 10th to the 17th, because this work needs some seeding and some grounding after that, some integration, and the idea is to have that space to really meet each other and to really connect and enter into the same frequency, and after that just have the ability to integrate and speak about our own individual experiences and the group experience, because this is above all an experiment in consciousness. Also, we are really going to experience in Palenque what is this all about, what secrets or what treasures are still in store for us as we move in time. We have also found that this is an ongoing process of refinement that will, as we mentioned before, will come to another important point on December 21st, 2012, when we reach the 13 years. There is another important point of resonance when we complete 160 days from that, from crossing the golden intersection. It would be Kin 104, and it will be March 23rd, 2026. We covered that also on our recent podcast, on last episode. And when we complete also 1,618 days, which is another small fractal of the golden ratio, it will be the equinox of the year 2030, March 20, 2030, that happens to be Kin 1. So we will be returned to the origin again, returned to Kin 1 during that equinox, that beginning of the seasonal year that will synchronize with the beginning of the 260-day count for a double rebirth. So it just keeps unpacking more and more beautiful moments that we hope to keep track of them also on this on YouTube and on our social media. So if you are also want to know more, we recommend you to subscribe, like, share, and look us for on social media, and be part of this experiment in expansion of consciousness.
Absolutely. Thank you for being part of this, all of you who've been tuning in all this time, taking this journey along with us. Definitely like and subscribe, share this with others whom you feel might resonate. Let other people know about this beautiful opportunity to get out into nature. Even though it's a Gregorian Tuesday and Wednesday, that's even all the better reason to have people disrupt the regularly scheduled program to return to origin and get in sync with nature, so we can actually return into that right alignment and get out of the other framework that has dominated our consciousness for so long. It's up to us to make these decisive shifts, and this is a beautiful invitation to begin that process, and begin it not just individually but collectively, knowing that other people are going to be doing this as well. So much love to all of you. So much love to everybody out there. Big love to our team, the 260 Pod, Alejandra and Ishel, for all of your commitment and support over the past 52 episodes up to now, nearly 1 year. But we're so grateful just to have the opportunity and the honor to work with you both so much. And, this would not be possible without you, in fact. And we give thanks to all the people, all the guests that we've had. In fact, next episode, we're going to do a bit more of honoring the guests, just to acknowledge all the many guests that we have enjoyed the presence with over the course of this broadcast. So we want to just shout all of you out, just generally. Big love, big shout out to everybody who was a guest on the Galactic Spin Podcast for this 52 episode series. And again, we'll get into those names and more particular next episode, but we just want to acknowledge you all now as well. And certainly thank you to Dan Winter for being our guest in this episode 52. Very, very special for us and very inspiring, I would say. I feel inspired.
Yes.
I feel inspired. So
Yes, and we may also maybe record like a special presentation, like a keynote with all the full slideshow that we were going to present on this episode, but that we wanted really to create a space for everything that we shared tonight to really sink in, and maybe create like another container for people who may want to just get the full download of what is happening. We may probably covering that on a separate container on this same channel, of course, but just stay aware for stay on top of the news and the updates that we hold on our social media, so that you can have all the what you need, all the tools at your disposal to make this golden intersection a really special day, and a day that we really trust that will make an imprint in the noosphere.
Without a doubt, I know it will. It already is.
Yes.
It's already happening. It's already happening. Already done, already healed. So we give great thanks to everybody out there for staying tuned with us. And come back in 7 days' time. We're going to have our +1 episode to recap a little bit and also open the way in preparation for the get. So grateful to be here and to be in service in this most unique way at this auspicious time. Love and gratitude to all, and more love, more meta. And Lakesh.
And Lakesh, thank you so much for being such a great wingman and partner for this journey. And well, we have still 1 episode more to go at least.
Yeah.
And we will keep doing this from the heart.
Every time. And Lakesh, everybody. One love.
One love.
Tune in with the Galactic Spin Podcast and expand your view. With the Galactic Spin Podcast and expand your view.